Hey everyone, welcome to Last Week in Cannabis, episode for the week of June 19th, 2017. Last Week in Cannabis is a show about news, events, policies, legal decisions, important announcements, and other, related news in the cannabis world for the past week. Today we have Roger with us as always, and we also have Brian Grow. So thanks both of you for joining us. Or Brain
Good
Grow,
evening.
sorry. I'll get it
My
right.
pleasure, my pleasure.
Alrighty.
So we have a big week for us.
It's been kind of a crazy week in cannabis news. So okay, let's just get started. So the first article we have is from the Vancouver Sun. Yeah. Hold on. I'm slightly stoned this evening. First article we have this week is from the Vancouver Sun. A Colorado institute offers niche program for marijuana sommeliers. So if people don't know, sommeliers are like children who go to school to eventually become like cheesemongers or wine perfecters, wine masters or brew masters or that kind of thing. So for the first time, they're allowing that for cannabis in the state of Colorado, which, to be honest with you, really surprised me. Um, the institute is based in Denver. So who would have thought that we'd be able to teach some cannabis science in high schools already?
That is kind of amazing. Yes, that's a big breakthrough. Yeah. It's too bad the whole country can't be so
Another big step towards normalization.
That's a good way to put it.
Absolutely.
Colorado's always leading the front in that area, especially like with the extra tax money that they generate off of cannabis. They feed the poor and whatnot, help the homeless.
So
definitely could do that.
The institute is called the Trichome Institute in Denver. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you know about the Trichome Institute, Steve?
No. Do you want to talk about it?
No. I only know a little bit, but this is pretty cool because what these guys do is they actually offer certifications into being able to grade. I forget what the hell they call it, but basically gives you a certification to be able to put different grades on on the corresponding weed. Like it. Fuck, man, I wish I could. Like they teach you how to identify the smell based on where you feel it in your palate, based on whether you feel it lower in your nostrils, higher in your nostrils, like in the back of your throat, and based on how it smells, like you should be able to tell a patient what kind of effect that this cannabis is going to give you, and then even by the shape of the bud, so it's really all about a certification to be able to identify the grade of cannabis that you're dealing with is what it is, and it's pretty awesome. There's a podcast that I listen to. This gentleman named Shango Los has on his own YouTube channel, and it's called Shaping Fire, and he actually does interviews with a lot of high profile cannabis industry individuals, and one of them was, I don't know if he was the founder or if he's like a CEO or something like that of the Trichome Institute, but he had him on the show. And then I thought it was also interesting because I think last week or the week before he also had the gentleman that we were discussing on the Growing with Fishes podcast whenever we had the Mammoth P guy on, Jeff Lowenfels. So that was pretty cool, and I was going to link those to the Aquaponic Cannabis Facebook group too because I thought those are pretty interesting.
Yep, and for those of you who don't know out there, the Aquaponic Cannabis group is the Facebook group that we run. It's kind of where we post a lot of our different articles or share things that we're working on. We've got a couple of requests to maybe switch over to Google Plus, where it's a little more open. A lot of people don't like Facebook, so we might end up doing that as well. So we'll see how that works out.
To check that out.
It worked very well for the New Grows guys. You know, a lot of people were a lot more comfortable doing that, so maybe we'll do that.
I could definitely see that.
It's funny, the next article here, Steve, I noticed a good segue from Colorado. Seems that Massachusetts is going to be enacting a law about recreational marijuana similar to how they handle the voting locally in Denver or in Colorado. And I think maybe in California.
Yeah, there's there is a bill right now to amend the current cannabis legislature in Massachusetts. One of them would raise the current tax rate from 10% to be as high, or I'm sorry, currently it's as high as 12%. It would raise it to a maximum of 28%, which is, you know, that's just ridiculous. Come on, we don't tax anything else. 28%.
Wait, are we talking about sales tax?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So a 12% tax
Holy
rate is
shit.
high, but it's still reasonable. And if it's going to schools and funding healthcare and stuff, I don't think we mind paying 12%. Okay.
Speak for
It's
yourself.
unreasonable.
Where is this located?
It's unreasonable, but hey, it's Fish Ganja guy.
Good evening.
12% sales tax is where now?
Well, it's maximum of 12%. A lot of towns have instituted a 1 or 3%, or at
what
least
state?
proposed a 1 or 3%. Massachusetts.
Oh, well, I don't live there, so that's fine, whatever.
Oh, but what I was talking about, though, was the fact that they're going to put whether or not to ban it into the hands of local voters.
Yeah, the other one was to ban whether or not local municipalities can vote to ban local municipalities is the other part of the bill. So that's one thing that's really important. You need to make sure that local municipalities cannot regulate your
So you're saying they're voting on that part of the bill separately, whether the local municipalities can change things?
Yeah, so these are two things that'll be up for debate again this week.
That sucks.
Well, what they're trying to do is make it so they can't. It'll basically block.
Okay. Oh, okay. So if it goes through, that would be great for them.
Yeah, we have and that article was from SalemNews.com. We have another article basically on the same bill from Patch.com, Massachusetts, Beacon Hill. And where is it? They explain it here as well in a little more detail. That's why I linked it. Sorry, I just forget because it's one of the earlier articles. Anyways, the newest plan wouldn't raise taxes, and it would leave decisions on whether to ban stores or not up to local voters, whereas previously it was blocked.
Well, previously, up until the last voting cycle, they didn't have a law to even do it. So this is all brand new. They're establishing their criteria, their protocols and criteria now in Massachusetts. And it's nice to see at least they're moving along in a pretty good pace, whether you agree with that kind of idea about voting or not, or you control. But at least they're moving along and getting it set, because they were kind of wide open. I got friends up there, and they talked about how they passed it, but nobody really knew what it was going to be like. You know, because they kind of passed it before they didn't even know or tell the public what they were going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another thing that you got to make sure that they don't make these things malleable. It's one thing that was very good about Colorado's is because it was a constitutional amendment, it was extremely hard for them to go and fuck with after the fact. Trying to make sure that you at least attempt to get that kind of thing passed in your state goes a long way into ensuring that you get the fairest cannabis market for your state or country, depending on where you're trying to bring about legalization. All right. Let's get to the first article of the day to talk about the you know the Klansman elf in charge. Um, Jeff Sessions could have the power to unilaterally write federal drug policy. Basically, Jeff Sessions wants to create a whole new drug category called Schedule A, whereas for up to a period of 5 years, they could just randomly list any kind of compound they want to and
Are you
ban it
serious?
completely. And there would be no way to undo that until they decide that they want to let it be undone.
You said like a 5 year ban on that, or five
Up to
years?
5 years, yes, and it can be renewed.
Wow. Sounds
Well,
like they're
three
just
steps back. I do.
I mean, that's just obviously no more than a huge attempt to try and halt the progress of cannabis that is inevitably moving forward.
I
Yep,
said it before. He's a beady-eyed little weasel, bastard.
yep, yep. He's a psychopath. So he was. This is from a guy that was too racist to be a federal judge during the Reagan administration, arguably one of the most racist administrations we've ever had. So it's just crazy. I just I don't understand. Well, I do, but I, hopefully all these guys will be out of here soon. I don't really think he's going to end up being able to cause as much destruction as everyone thinks he will be, but we'll see. But yeah, so he just proposed this on the 16th. So we'll see what
That's
happens.
amazing. Oh gosh.
The bill is called the Stop Importation and Trafficking of Synthetic Analogs Act of 2017, or SITSA. Now moves to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Grassley and Feinstein, top-ranking Democrats, are listed on the bill. So both parties are selling you out, guys.
That is pretty awesome. Right? I mean, awesomely bad.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I have
So,
to hang my head on that one for a minute. I hadn't heard that one yet. I wish I'd been prepared for that.
you know, it was great. I was out this past week. I forget where I was. Oh, up in San Francisco, and I was at some cannabis thing, and because we started doing this show, all of a sudden I was able to talk about 2 or 3 things that they were totally unaware of about a topic that I don't even remember what the topic was, but it was just, I really, got a sudden appreciation for the work we do for the show. It's currently one of our lower rated episodes, but I really, our lower viewed episodes, but I really hope that you guys gain a lot of benefit from it. I try to make this kind of the news show that I wish was out there. I haven't really found a news show that covers, all the different legislative things and different announcements and other wonky things that'll end up being relevant to you if you're in the cannabis industry or just really interested in cannabis. So if you guys have any feedback, please email me at potentponics@gmail.com. That's greatly appreciated. I'm happy to change up anything. I'm working on getting, intro songs and a bunch of other stuff to make it a little more formalized. And we'll make it, clean it up, make it a little bit more professional looking here soon. So,
More production.
yep, working on putting a little more production into
We're
it.
in the beta stage, right?
Yep. So, but it's okay. We've had some amazing guests on our other show as well. If you guys aren't aware, check out Growing with Fishes podcast. It's more of a grow show / grow guest show.
Well,
Next,
you were talking about a California governor a minute ago, and I believe one of your next stories is one of our favorite California governors. I mean, what can you say about Jerry Brown?
so the next article is from the LA Times. This is from new proposal would allow pot shops to sell in California where both medical and recreational on the same property. Currently, they're not allowed to do that. This works extremely well in Colorado. They have a partition between the separate sales rooms. One room is for medical and priced that accordingly. The other room is for recreational, priced accordingly, and it works extremely well. You can, easier for them to all keep their cash and product, in the same safe at night. Reduces rental costs, reduces overhead for the dispensaries. So there's no real reason why they should ban this.
So doing that to try to help the business owner, is that what they're actually trying to do?
Yeah, it just reduces, so you don't have to have separate properties, because there's no reason to have separate properties, or at least require it. That's kind of ridiculous.
So how was Jerry Brown involved then?
He signed off on the here, hold on. Jerry Brown and legislators proposed Monday to allow medical and recreational marijuana to be sold out of the same locations. So.
Oh, okay. Just that he stepped up with the other legislatures.
He's working with the legislature to try.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Cannabis industry.
I wondered the other day. I just wondered what happened to Jerry Brown, and here he is in the news.
Bad Jerry Brown. Oh, that's not how it goes. I'm just kidding. Does everybody else have any other personal news or anything crazy they wanted to throw in? Move on to the next article.
Oh no, I think we're rolling along a little bit tonight and have time for when we get a little talkative later on.
Okay.
Who we got in chat today?
Yeah, do we have anybody in chat today? There's a good question.
Yeah, we do. We got a couple people in chat. We got Puffmaster Del Funky says this is his first time. Appreciate you.
What up, Puffmaster?
And we got Master Yip. He follows us regularly. Shout out to you. And we also have Mr. Slowski.
Good evening, all y'all. Welcome to the show.
Shout out to the live viewers.
So the next one we have is in criminal case against medical pot lawyer, judge voids attorney-client privilege. And this is from San Diego Union Tribune. Trying to find where this was located at. Thought it was in California, but I guess it's not. Anyways, we'll figure it out. But basically, they're using some emails that were between the lawyer and the attorney, or the lawyer and the guy who was busted for growing, in order to prosecute this guy, which is kind of fucked up. They're not supposed to do that, and they're not allowed to legally do that. The judge here should be disbarred. So, key piece of evidence for a privileged communication between the lawyer and her client is the key piece of evidence being used to prosecute. So, again, it's just cops breaking laws and doing things they could never get away with in a million years in any kind of other court case. Just because there's a cannabis involved. It's just stupid.
So you said you found it in San Diego, but you weren't sure where it was from.
Yeah, it didn't. It says.
He was a former owner of.
Hold on.
Midwest distribution of a California company that supplied cannabis extracts.
Yeah. Doesn't say where though. This says the district attorney's name, but it doesn't say where it's located. Midwest distribution. Yeah, nowhere in the article does it list where it is.
So it's all just the same article everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm looking for you real quick.
No worries. We'll move on to the next article.
Wow, so sure they got like an army escorting this guy.
Yeah, so the new California regulations allow two different things. First off, it would allow cannabis and free cannabis samples to be given out at the county fair in California. So we've got California Growers Association is also pushing for on-site consumption and sales, similar in the manner to alcohol, and would include cannabis and alcohol into a 21 and over zone. Kind of the idea.
Awesome.
They're still working out whether or not they can have cannabis and alcohol in the same area or if they have to be separated. Yeah, so that'll be kind of cool,
Oh, jeez.
especially in California. It would
You can
also
only
Senate Bill 94 would also open up and allow for legal regulation of large cannabis events where you can smoke while you're there. So as
That'd
long
be
as
awesome.
you're 21 and over. So
fucking take
pot
your weed
shop.
into a concert. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome. That's my dream.
not so much
That's my dream. I just want to smoke weed at a concert.
for like Cannabis Cup and all. Well, those
Right.
of us that went to Raleigh Davis Store Sanity
Which, I mean, if they're
may
think
or may not have smoked weed in the front of the White House and the steps of the Capitol. I mean, what?
Which, I mean, I would hope that if they're trying to get it to be on the same playing field of alcohol as far as adult use and having to be in a certain area with that, then they would include that across the board, wherever it's legal
Well, you'd think.
to ingest alcohol, then hopefully they could do that to cannabis as well. That would be pretty cool.
Yep. Alrighty. So the next one is basically California's new lab testing is pretty ridiculous. They're asking to get super, super low detection levels for certain chemicals and compounds, much lower than a lot of other states. And it's making it overly expensive for lab operators to, do reasonably priced tests, as well as abide by, the coming California state law. So there's a bunch of testing companies that are proposing that California change a couple of the um, different regulations. There's many levels of detection recommended, and this is by East Bay Express. Uh, Many levels of detection recommended by the state are at such low levels that many analytical processes will have difficulty providing accurate results, he explained. Overall, the regulations as proposed may chase many lab operators out of the business, as well as growers back to the black market pursuits. So,
Once again, all these old folks and young single housewives. Well, that might not be a great example, but they're all out there, and then all of a sudden they have to go back down into a seedy neighborhood to get meds because it keeps them from having a fit, an epileptic seizure or something. It's just ridiculous.
speaking of testing, Fish Conjugate, did you send off your cannabis yet from your grow off, or are you? Have you done any kind of video?
I'm letting it cure for a few weeks before I send it down to the lab for samples. I want to make sure that my numbers are as good as possible.
Okay.
So I'm giving it another 2 weeks, and then off they go.
Cool.
A little bit of a cure.
Yep. Gotta let it do its thing. Everything convert to how it should be, and then get the accurate numbers.
I totally agree with that.
We'll have a Black Dog on Thursday, so then we'll have had both of the companies that he did a side by side on the show, and then when he gets his testing results back, he can tell us what happened.
Sounds good, man. I'll definitely keep you appraised.
Hell yeah. Alrighty, so the next bill is from LAweekly.com, and this is the other part of Bill 94 is that we were just talking about earlier, is that it allows for the legal delivery market of cannabis. Some of the biggest proponents of the bill were disabled veterans, elderly patients who have a hard time moving and getting around. It's one less thing that they have to, get a ride to, or get out of the vehicle to, or get in their, little, handy cart or whatever it's called, the rascals or whatever they're called in commercials. Anyways, the motorized go-karts for elderly people. Um, so those That'll be really good because there's a lot of people out there that need a delivery service and don't have a vehicle and rely on delivery food or other services already and don't really have to go out for anything. So this will definitely help them out the most.
Don't you have to wonder what kind of quality that'll be, too? I mean,
Well, yeah,
if
I
they
don't know.
start that.
I've gotten delivery cannabis in Nevada and I've gotten it in California, and I've never
Yeah.
had I never had an issue. So
Oh,
granted, it maybe is
I was gonna say I don't see why the quality would be any different.
yeah, it's
Well,
basically the same stuff in a dispensary, like a brick and mortar store. They just have a guy that'll hop in a car and bring a bunch of it with him.
right. I guess it depends on where you're talking about too, because in some states, then you go down to the medical dispensary and it's crap. You can grow better weed than they got. I know people in Alaska like that too. They suffer. That might just be Alaska. I'm not sure because I have a hard time.
Parts of SoCal are like that for sure. I've seen super moldy shit. I've seen weed that was sun dried in a dispensary, and it was just like, what the fuck is this? Why
What
is
the hell? Sun dried? That
yeah,
doesn't
like
even make
just
sense.
bleached out from the sun. And I was just like, what happened to your weed, man? Like, this is sun dried. And this was right after I came back from Jamaica, and the guy tried telling me it wasn't sun dried. I was like, no, dude, like, for real, like, I just saw thousands of pounds of sun dried weed. This is sun dried weed. So it was just, I've seen stuff that was so moldy that it smelled like a Foot Locker in a dispensary.
Holy shit.
I've seen grows that had 4 different species of mites in one grow. What else have I seen? All kinds of shit.
Probably seen it all as far as growing goes.
Maybe that'll help. Maybe that delivery though will help actually raise the quality in those kind of situations. So who knows?
Yeah.
So it turns out on that earlier story, Steve, that fella was indicted for taking stuff from his San Diego-based business and shipping it for sale to Colorado, and that's what that was all about. So that he was in San Diego, he was indicted in San Diego for sending his product to Colorado for sale over state lines. So breaking, of course, a federal statute, across state lines. There you go. So that's what that story was earlier about the medical lawyer being charged.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So the next article is
Governor John
sorry.
Pickens.
Yeah.
Luther. Oh, from where? Let's see.
Okay. From the Denver Channel, denverchannel.com. Governor Hickenlooper signs 2 bills that aim to cut down on plant limits. So this is the one that limits caregivers to 24 plants. Most people will be limited to 16 plants or less. This is ridiculous. If you have a serious illness, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to grow way more than that. You used to be able to get a 99 plant count license in Colorado. I used to have a research and development license, which I don't even know is valid anymore. It's valid for 5 years, or was at the time when they were issuing them in the beginning.
So they're limiting it from 24 to 16, you said?
Yep. Oh, no. They're limiting
Wow.
it from 99 before to 16. Or most of them will be 16, but the maximum will be 24, with a couple of exceptions for rural areas.
Wow.
Plant limits for a home grow is just ridiculous anyway.
Yeah, they're trying to cut down on grows. I mean, I used to fill out my full grow. I had a pretty big plant count in Colorado, and we had no problem. We were always under our thing just in case they ever showed up, but it's just ridiculous. That and the constantly evolving definition of what a clone is always fun.
Yeah, so what they're doing is you're capping caregivers at 24 and keeping individual homes at 12. And if you're a caregiver, you can grow 24, which basically says you can grow for one or two people if they split it up 6 apiece. So that's what they're doing. Basically, you can only caregive for one person, one of the persons.
Yep. The state previously allowed up to 99 plants.
Wow, that's too bad. Because I just know there's a lot of good caregivers out there, and yes, they might make a living at it, and yes, they deserve to make a living at it because they're providing a very important medical marijuana to patients that need it and function well because of it. And to limit them to only one person in their local area, it's really sad.
Yep. This next one's gonna piss you off.
Good.
So California County took $3.7 million in pot licensing fees, and now it might ban cultivation altogether.
Wait, what?
Wow, they're like, hey, yeah, go ahead and
you
apply for the
imagine-
licenses, and then, but y'all can't grow.
Can you imagine being a grower in this county? This is just completely fucking ridiculous.
So they took
Yeah, that's
everyone's
crazy.
money and then said, "Oh, we're just not going to give you your license or your money back." That's fucking robbery.
Well, they haven't done it yet, but they're heavily considering it. All the cannabis producers are threatening to sue the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What county is this?
I'm looking it up right now. This California County.
So San Andreas, or I think it's San Andreas County.
Well, they're going to fall in a big hole anyway.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Calaveras County. That's it.
It's reported out of San Andreas though here.
Yeah. So it's
San Diego County.
Yep.
Nonprofit preschool in San Diego County.
Yeah, it's Calaveras County is the one that did it. So no, they're thinking about banning it altogether. So if you know anyone considering it, yeah,
The cock.
yeah. There's no other real word for that than what you just said. This is completely asinine. So we'll see if it goes through or not. But just know that like this is why you need protections from local townships from being able to have local control. It's for stupid ass shit like this. It's not, because we think that people shouldn't have the right to at least have it not next to, have some additional zoning laws or something. That's okay. But when you should be able to ban it outright, and you sure as hell shouldn't be able to pull some shit like this. Here's the other bit of it. So they've already spent a bunch of the money that they raised for different county projects, so they can't even just pay it back.
Well, you have to think that the courts aren't going to allow. In the end, I mean, you might get screwed. I mean, well, that's going to be horrendous if they do that. But the people should get their money back through a lawsuit eventually. It's just like when somebody goes in and a legal marijuana grow. There's cases out there where they sued the cops and got all their money in restitution. It took a while. They got it. They won in court. So there's precedent out there to win something like that in court. If they took all that money, that couple $100,000 just to start with out in Colorado, or $400,000, whatever it is, for a dispensary, and then run off with the money, that's no different than you or me running off with the money.
Yep. And these cultivation licenses are on an average of $40,500 and that the county is getting in collection fees. It's not like the county is not getting anything. This is providing more money than a lot of people's housing, property taxes and stuff like that for the schools, for local townships, for the healthcare, roads, whatever else they spend it on. So it's just completely ridiculous.
We're talking about for home grows or for commercial grows?
Commercial.
At that price, commercial. Nobody's going to pay $40,000 to grow in their fucking spare bedroom.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait, are we talking
I don't know.
about?
I would pay $40K a year to grow if I could grow 22,000 square feet. It's double the size of the greenhouse I got right now. If I could grow that much, yeah, I would pay that because that would be like nothing. That would be just like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, you know, out of, a couple hundred. So it wouldn't be a big deal. I mean, it would suck, but
No, you can't.
if it meant I didn't get to deal with the police, that's fine. Um,
Wow. Okay. Is this next article about
So,
Jeff
and
Sessions?
that previous article was from sacb.com. Forgot to mention the article.
Good catch. Good catch. Don't want to piss anybody off, do we?
Yeah. So this next one is cannabis attorney expects court decision on 280E by end of the year. Basically, this is one of the tax codes, or one of the tax law code changes that would really open up the cannabis business. And it's extremely important that for this to pass. If it does, it'll really change how the cannabis markets will move and work in the United States. So,
Oh, so you think this will help?
Yep.
Huh. I was reading the article and I must have taken it wrong, man, because Trump signed something over on it already. You know, signed the current federal budget bill, which would add an extension. Oh, add an extension to the fair amendment.
Yeah, it needs to be modified, basically, is what they're saying.
Okay, I see.
They need to make it fit the industry, and if they're willing to rewrite it or add an amendment to it, it'll
I
help.
just thought Jeff Sessions' name and figured we were getting screwed again.
Not always.
Well, it said his hands are tied. He was hung up to a tree. No. Okay, sorry. Just wanted to clarify
That
that.
was from cannabisbusiness.com. I'm sorry, cannabisbusinesstimes.com. The next article, or the next article was from mjbizdaily.com. Oh, we skipped one. How did that happen? This next one's from cannabisbusinesstimes.com. Somehow I skipped it. So, Attorney General calls for end to protections for state illegal medical marijuana businesses. So this, I don't think it happened yet when we had the last episode.
That's what I was talking about. That's the article I was talking about. I'm on. You talking about Article 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Jeff Sessions and Trump are involved in this one.
Yeah, so Sessions is lumping together opioid addiction with cannabis and wants to be able to go after medical patients, children having seizures using it, people dying of cancer that use cannabis, veterans that use it for their PTSD. He wants to arrest all of those people. He wants to arrest dispensary owners, growers, anyone related to cannabis, really. So he wrote Congress and asked them to not renew the portion of the, hold on, what's the name of it?
It's like Rohrbach or Rorschach, not Rorschach, but it's Rohrbacher.
Rohrbacher FAR Amendment. Yeah. Extension for the Rohrbacher FAR Amendment coverage, forbidding the use of federal appropriation funds that interfere with state authorized medical marijuana programs through September of 2017. So they have until then to renew it. So if that doesn't get renewed, we lose the protection of medical marijuana. And if the ultra racist alpha over there is still attorney general, we will end up in a war with them probably.
Yeah, seriously. I don't see that going over well with the cannabis community at all. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what everyone's going to do.
Force everybody back underground.
My Instagram and YouTube pages are going to vanish real quick.
That's okay. I think they're all going to lose power here. So there's a new lawsuit based out of Siskiyou County. They tried to pass super restrictive grow laws there, and basically the growers there are like, this is bullshit, so they're filing a big motion to overturn those laws, and it'll actually have big implications further wider in the state of California if it passes. If they win this judgment, it'll make it really easy to overturn a local ordinance that tells you you can't grow, or you can only grow so many things, or you can't grow outdoors, or a lot of the other things that you've heard me and Marty complain about on the Growing with Fishes podcast. So.
Hey guys, I just rolled up to my destination. I got up and bounced out, but I will talk to you all soon. And as soon as I send those lab samples in, I'll update everybody.
Okay.
All right, Fish guys.
Take care, buddy.
Later, fish.
Bye.
For those of you guys that don't know, check his YouTube out, Fish Conch Guy on YouTube.
Pretty cool. Very cool.
Yep.
Hey, we skipped over the U.S. tax court and talking about the applicability of 208E. You see that one?
No. I did that by accident right beforehand.
Oh, I thought we were talking. So you segued right from the medical marijuana business is getting screwed by Sessions.
I went 16.
Okay.
I went 14, 16, 15, 17.
Okay, I was trying to keep
So
up.
that last article is from SiscuDaily.com.
Yes. Yep.
Alrighty, so the next article is from heraldandnews.com, empowering the community, whatever that is. So this is a state employee steals tax payments from local dispensary. Authorities arrested Oregon Department of Revenue employee after he allegedly stole tax payments made by a medical dispensary in Klamath Falls. Now, can you imagine being a dispensary and doing everything extremely carefully, and then having some fuckhead like this screw up your taxes and get you guys raided or arrested?
Yeah, because they're going to come after you before they find out he ripped you off.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to move to Klamath Falls a few years ago. That's pretty nice out there. It's too bad this guy got ripped off. It's good he got caught, actually.
Paulson was booked on charges of first-degree theft, mail theft, first-degree official misconduct, possession of methamphetamines.
Oh, there you go.
The guy looks pretty grizzled too. So.
Nobody noticed in the government, though.
Oh yeah, I know.
He might have been a drug addict having a
Department of Revenue or the DMV, man. If you're like awake and present, man, you're good. So this new one was a study by the journal Addiction, and they said that cannabis does not lead to an increase in teen use. They did find there is an increase in people over the age of 26, but found below the age of 26 that there was an actual reduction in use by teenagers and children. That's from ganjapreneur.com. You guys still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thing on?
Yeah, you're coming through good.
Just teasing. Next article is from the Cannabis. Next article is from the Cannabis.co. There's these little cannabis containers for like 1 gram storage containers for oil. What is that noise?
Hit the mute.
Sorry, I had to make you. I don't know what that was. It was just super loud. I'll let you fix it and then unmute. Where were we? Okay, so federal law enforcement seized 1,000 storage containers en route to Stash Logics in Boulder, designed boxes were imported for them to sell marijuana, tobacco, and pharmaceutical consumers stateside. So they labeled it drug paraphernalia, even though there was no drugs inside.
Wow. Yeah, where did you say that article was from? I'm pretty sure I saw that one throughout the week at some point.
The cannabis.co.
Yeah, and that's crazy because we're not even talking about anything that's technically cannabis related whatsoever.
Nope. It could be art supplies. Or it could be for fossils or for jewelry.
That's fucking crazy.
That's right, it could, yeah. Well, that's the way to do it. That's the way they do it. Unbelievable.
All right.
What next? I mean, are they going to search just open every package on the way to our house for now? Is that what they're doing next?
All right. So, a federal bill introduced to protect medical marijuana states and provide access to veterans. The bill introduced Thursday known as Compassionate Access, Research Expansion, and Respect States, or CARES Act, will not legalize medical marijuana federally, but would amend federal law and officially allow states to set their own medical marijuana policies. Under the bill, Veterans Affairs physicians would be also able to recommend medical marijuana to their veteran patients, which they are currently barred from doing. This is from the cannabis.co. The bill would also prevent federal law enforcement from prosecuting patients, doctors, and caregivers in states that choose to legalize medical marijuana and who abide by state law. The sponsors are Al Franken.
Is that the one that was introduced by Ron Paul?
Yeah, Ron Paul and Al Franken. Imagine that.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a real good.
I'm glad. The good news is there's somebody at least trying to put up a fight against Jeff Sessions trying to impede the progress, you know?
Yep.
Now we'll just see how the House how they handle it now, how Congress handles it. That's the whole thing. But it is good to see that there's somebody else. While all these papers are being written against us, you got somebody sitting up there writing papers for us. So
yep,
that is good news. Very good news.
Other sponsoring senators are Senator Cory Booker, Lisa Murkowski, Kristen Gillibrand, Rand Paul, and Mike Lee. The House version of the bill is sponsored by Representatives Stephen Cohen and Don Young. Both of them are bipartisan.
One Republican, one Democrat. Huh?
More than one. Both of them.
I thought you said on the two. And okay.
Yeah, both the first bill is 3 and 3, and the second one has one of each.
Right. Oh, okay. It's totally bipartisan. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, that is because people see how much it helps children and seizure patients and everyone else that's, you know.
Okay. Oh, we got any questions in chat there?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions in chat? If you do, feel free to chime in.
Don't be shy now. Let's see.
This next one comes from us in the cannabis.co as well. Rhode Island governor has called for an increase in medical marijuana dispensaries and an increase in licensing fees to generate another $1.5 million in revenue. They're going to expect it to triple the number of licensed dispensaries in the state, and increase some of the taxing fees. So.
Yeah, that can be rough on those businesses, but it might be to take care of the infrastructure needed to have the programs in place in the first place. So it would take more looking into that, wouldn't it? Or do you know any more about it, Steve?
It just depends on the site, on what they're trying to do. Like, for instance, right now they're raising it from $250 to $5,000 annual licensing fees.
Woo!
If you have a big licensing fees, if you have a big facility, $5,000 is chump change. I mean, you're doing 40 grand a day in sales. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. And that's for your annual licensing fee. The new one is $5,000 to $25,000 on a sliding scale based on the size of your dispensary. So Again,
that sounds very
while
reasonable.
high is still not as astronomical as Sacramento wants 50,000. There's some Texas I think wants 500,000. Some of these places are
Yeah, it's close to $500,000 right now.
Yeah.
It's like just under 500,000.
Yeah. So while yes, that sounds like a lot of money when you're making, $5 to $50,000 a day in sales, 25 grand isn't that bad. So that's on the upper end of what some of these companies are doing, but still.
Yeah, I mean, it at least gives people on the lower scale a chance to get in,
Mm-hmm. It's high, but it's not ludicrous. So. We get a random question from chat. A guy named Lucas Knight. What aquatic organisms produce the most ammonia relative to their size?
Tune in Thursday night at 9:30.
Yeah. Tune in Thursday. No.
Right, seriously.
Yeah, goldfish or koi would be my easy answer, I guess. So. You could also make an argument that freshwater stingrays produce a lot as well because they produce raw urea, because they're a shark or a ray, so chemistry is a little different. So. But yeah, definitely check us out on Thursdays. We do the Growing with Fishes podcast. It's more of a grow show. We do that every Thursday, so definitely check it out. I realized my camera was off center. Alrighty. What's the next article we have here? Oh, yeah. So Colorado screwed up their wording for their how things work, and it's going to screw up how they can enforce testing of cannabis pesticides. Sorry about that. Enforce cannabis pesticides research and testing provisions contained in Bill 1370 or 1367. Basically, they screwed up, and instead of putting an and, they put an or. They put an and instead of an or, but it dramatically changed how they're able to actually enforce the law. So it's basically voided for the time being. And that was from the cannabis.co.
Where was that?
It's from the cannabis.co.
No, but where was that where they fucked up the language in the bill?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was in Colorado. From the Colorado's Marijuana Enforcement Division regulation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This next article is also brought to you by cannabis.co. Vermont governor and legislators still negotiating marijuana legalization. The key provisions that the governor wants right now is to allow changes for police to seize marijuana if someone possesses more than the law allows, possesses it where they are not allowed to, or consumes a drug where it's not allowed. Original bill did not provide police with the authority to seize any marijuana at all. I like the first version. Get off my plants.
Yeah, definitely.
It is funny to see how people find these huge oversights in some of these bills, though. So
It used to make a law and the law stayed, right? And now you make a law and it changes every couple of years when they vote somebody new in.
oh yeah, not only that, with cannabis, it changes every 6 freaking months.
Yeah, well, I was trying to be kind. But you're right, probably.
That's just the game that they play with cannabis, man. Sounds like you might be getting a little bit of feedback, Roger.
We might. We might see it.
No, from your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're getting feedback from my mic?
A little bit.
Yeah, I was just hearing myself echo.
Okay, okay. How about now? Go back.
I don't know.
That's good now.
Okay.
So the next article is brought to us by the Cannabis.co. Heavyweight boxing champ Dante Wilder charged with pot possession in Alabama. They pulled him over on a window tint violation,
Yeah.
and then got him on marijuana possession.
God, man. Wow.
Police department says officers got permission to search the vehicle after smelling marijuana and found a small amount on the vehicle's console. So again, never give them permission. Also, Supreme Court has ruled on 2 separate occasions, as well as the Circuit Court. Three separate Circuit Court rulings. The smell of cannabis is not probable cause for search, even in a vehicle. So.
Yeah, but what about when the deal is if you don't allow them to search, they're going to leave you on the side of the road till they bring the dogs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine. But if they go through and do it anyway, then you have them on a legal search and seizure. Just sit there, shut the fuck up, wait till you get to court, and the whole thing will get thrown out.
If they actually search, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What about when
I've had 2 or 3 friends get all of their stuff thrown out. In fact, there was a guy in Philadelphia a couple years ago who had like 500 ecstasy pills, like a half a key of coke, 2 or 3 pounds of weed, just a whole bunch of shit, like a whole trunk load of drugs. And they arrested him, and he had his phone recording the whole time. This is back when you could very first do this. And he recorded the whole thing. They never read him his Miranda rights. He got to walk. So.
Oh yeah, that works.
Just another thing. No, it
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
work.
I've actually seen like what Roger was talking about. Like I've actually seen that happen. You know, how they ask you to get out of your vehicle and they'll sit you right there on the curb, and they'll go and they'll get a drug dog to sniff your vehicle, and if the drug dog reacts to anything, then I guess that gives them probable cause to search your vehicle.
Which of course it will, because they use hand signals to make the dogs hit, which any lawyer that's dealt with the cops and search and seizure knows this.
There's a good point. That's what I was digging for before. Thank you, Brain Grow. Appreciate that.
No problem. I knew exactly what you're talking about when you brought it up. I was like, yeah, I've seen exactly what you're talking about with my own eyes.
We're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So
it's just bullshit to see a guy that, like, you know, could have probably punched that cop's head clean off. You know, guy is a world champion boxer, and here they're harassing him over like a gram of weed. You know.
Well, they actually harassed him because he had real dark tinted windows.
Oh, I know, but then to further harass him after that, man, come on.
Yeah. Well, they got to make it.
You know, as we all know, there's a black guy getting pulled over in Alabama. He got pulled over. Why? DWB, driving while brown or driving while black. It used to happen all the time in Philadelphia. Some of my friends.
This is driving while tinted black.
Well, I guess you could still make the same claim. You know, the windows were.
Well,
DWT, driving while tinted.
Yeah, driving while tinted. Yeah. They do in South Carolina. See, I've been to court where the guy goes, well, it's illegal. It's legal in Florida, okay, but it's not illegal in South Carolina. As soon as you cross the state line, you're in violation of our statutes. Of they don't allow the windows to be tinted, but so dark for the protection of first responders and all. And you know, as much as I want to be an activist and an anarchist, I don't have a problem with the first responders being safe doing their job. And so that's why they do that. But I saw a guy, the judge literally made him take a razor blade out there and strip that shit off his windows before he could leave the court, the parking, before he could get his car and leave the parking lot. Yep. So that's why he got stopped. If he'd have been black in a car without black tinted windows,
I think I'm missing something really obvious though. Like, why does it matter for the safety of the first responders?
Because they can't see the car when they approach it. It's all dark. There could be a gun anywhere in there.
Like California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, you know, other southern states, that shit keeps your car like 10 to 20 degrees cooler.
It does.
Yeah, it really makes a huge difference.
right? So especially in places where you have this high heat, I don't think it's a reasonable. Like, I don't think the cops have that good of an argument. Yeah, someone could shoot out through tinted glass, but that's kind of a bullshit argument. If you're a cop and you're worried about getting shot, don't be a fucking cop. Like, that's ridiculous. That's why this whole, it's just as stupid as this whole I
Like
fear for my life
it's a
bullshit.
double-edged sword. Like that argument especially, it's a double-edged sword, you know, like in the first place, you're stopping the guy because his windows are tinted too dark. Okay, why else otherwise would you be having contact with this person? There's no other reason, you know? Like
Yep.
this vehicle has given you no other reason to fuck with it, but because you have a problem with how dark the windows are tinted, you feel the need to stop him, and
Well,
now all of a sudden
It's a law
that
enforcement
argument is
agent.
validated.
It's a law enforcement agent doing his job because the law in the state says that the windows are too dark. It's not his personal choice. He's just enforcing the law in this case. I have to pull the respect card on that one. But I will argue this point if you want to argue against it. I'll say, what's the difference between that and a work service van? You can't see until you get to the door in a service van. There could be 5 guys with guns in there. So I'll make that argument. I don't want to argue against whether the cop is doing his job or infringing on your rights, but I'll argue that what's the difference between having all your back windows tinted black and a van with no windows?
Yeah.
So that's my, to be against you and for you at the same time.
Yeah, I mean that's why I said it's like a double-edged sword because they pull you over because they disagree with one of your personal choices, which is exactly how everything is, you know, in my opinion, you know.
Well, you get that changed by using that renewable resource every couple of years when you vote for your congressman, and your senators. Then you vote for guys that'll get rid of abolish laws like that if that's how you feel. Because it's not, you can't blame the cop for stopping somebody to enforcing a statute that it's his job to do that. So, in that case, I have to put it on respect for the law enforcement guy. Not, it's more about
Based on what though?
It's
Based on
based
what?
on state law. State law says you can only have
It's based on a law that was written into it was written the point is like the law shouldn't exist in the first place is
yeah,
the
but
point
the
that I'm
point is,
making.
the point actually is does exist. So the law enforcement agent is not being
Okay,
overzealous.
and
He's just
laws
doing his
against
job.
marijuana exist too.
No, but it's the
Are
legislature.
those justified?
Hey,
Are the
one
laws
at
against
I'm saying,
marijuana justified?
this is the
one at
point.
a time,
It's
guys.
the legislature, not the cop. It's the congressman that passed those laws. The cop is only doing his job enforcing it. I've had cops help me out, so I mean they're not all bad.
I know the cops are just the muscle. I get that.
They're the ones that have to enforce the law. So you can't really blame them for enforcing the law that's on the books. You have to blame the legislature and vote new people in there that are more amiable towards cannabis legislation to make it better for the general public, including something that you would have you feel is an infringement of your personal rights, is having tinted windows in your car. You can have tinted windows in South Carolina. You can only have so dark of a tinted window. You can't have it blacked out. That's just the law. But again, I argue on your side, I argue that why is that any different than a cargo van with no windows? See, so they're kind of making a law because, and maybe it is an ethnic thing. Maybe they say, okay, the majority of people drive with blacked out windows are ethnic minorities. But then again, I don't know if that's, I think that may or may not be true. I don't know. I know there's a lot of young Caucasian people that are not ethnic that drive around in Japanese cars with dark tinted windows. So I don't know where to draw the line there. And don't want to get nothing personal there, Brain Grow. I just feel like it's not the cop's fault. He has to enforce an archaic law.
Right.
That's all.
No problem. No offense taken.
Thank you, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Likewise, man. Likewise. Both of you guys.
Oh yeah, you guys are too. Alrighty. So the next article is from the cannabis.co. Down to the wire. Basically, Nevada may or may not manage to have legal sales on the 1st of July, which is what they're originally aiming for. The biggest issue is that the greedy alcohol control board is trying to say that no one has the legal right to sales of cannabis except for alcohol distributors, which why they think they have the right to
Might as
it
well
is
say the pharmaceutical companies do it.
completely
What
insane.
the hell?
Oh, I'm glad we're doing this show. We're
Wow.
putting this out for people, man.
Nevada's marijuana regulators are working furiously
Where
on
is the
recreational
logic
sales.
behind that argument?
Yep, approaching deadline that could hinge on a court decision whether the powerful liquor industry should be guaranteed a piece of the pot pie before tourists and residents can light up. Lawyers for the liquor industry and Nevada Department of Taxation were arguing before a judge on Monday whether the state has the authority to issue marijuana distribution licenses to anyone besides alcohol distributors.
That's bizarre.
What? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Nope. No, they don't want to, they're worried they're going to lose revenue, so they're trying to strong arm their way into the industry. It's bullshit.
They're trying to have a balance. Give me a piece of the pie and we won't fight you because then we'll still make shitloads of money. It's about the money.
Does Nevada have, I mean, surely Nevada has a medicinal program, don't they? Or is it just recreational there?
I didn't think they had.
They have both. They have medicinal. I bought cannabis when I was in Reno.
I wasn't sure about that one.
Vegas. So Nevada is the only state that recognizes out-of-state licenses. So you have a Colorado or California or Washington or Oregon medical license, you can buy weed there.
That's something.
I mean, the bottom line there is people try to lower it down to the level of alcohol where it has no value other than recreational, you know, and that's all that boils down to. And that's just simply because they don't understand it.
You know, it's funny, in South Carolina, the Department of Agriculture, the head of the Department of Agriculture, his name is Hugh Weathers. You can look it up. A few years ago, he called all the sheriffs of all the counties in South Carolina to meet it, like south of the border or whatever it is up there, and talk about legalizing cannabis so they could use it as an agricultural industry to make millions and billions of dollars, and wanted to be the first one to do it in the Southeast. And said that now we could monopolize like Georgia and Florida did with their lotteries, because people were driving from South Carolina to go to Georgia to buy lottery tickets. So he said we should do that with cannabis. We should be the first one to allow everybody to grow cannabis and hemp, and then everybody will be coming from out of state to buy it. So we got a pretty good, the head of the South Carolina Department of Agriculture, if he ran the country, we'd be in good shape.
Yep.
So for all
I can't. Yeah, I mean,
forward-thinking people, it's just a conservative freaking Republican state. Sorry, for you people out there, I'm not Republican or freaking Democrat. I just believe in the best person for the job that actually do something and get something done, and not be a fool and embarrass the freaking country every day. That's all. I'm sorry.
I always feel independent is the best stance to take.
Yeah, I'm independent. Give me a good man, a good woman. I don't care. Just give me somebody.
Yeah, man. As long as their head is in the right place.
But you also have to vote in the
down at the right pace.
You have to vote in the freaking Congress. So they pass a law, you know? So it's just hard. Checks and balances. All right, this is not a political show. Sorry. Where is it?
Sometimes we get heated about this shit. But
Well,
it's mostly
hey, man,
of the dumbass
that's-
bullshit we have to deal with politically in the cannabis industry and the amount of insane regulations they put us through.
And changes. It's always in flux. It's like you think you're getting a step forward, and then they do that 3-step back stuff. You know, you go, it's not even the old 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's 1 step forward, 3 steps back. You know,
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, with what some of the legislation they're trying to pull off, Sessions and Trump are trying to do. You should have known, all you people out there, if you only could have voted for him because you were a big celebrity or Apprentice fan, and he fired frickin' Khloe Kardashian because she went to drug rehab or something, or some meeting she had to go to. And as soon as he found out she was had a drug meeting to go to, he fired her ass on the show. It wasn't even like she screwed up on the show. She just got fired because he hates drug addicts and alcoholics. So that's just, according. I don't know how big of any drug addicts or alcoholics he's got.
Personal differences, man.
That's a good way
He's
to
like that.
encourage people to heal by shitting all over them.
And he's also lied out of both sides of his face on every issue. Just watch, John Oliver or John Daly or whatever. So.
Yeah, he was just telling people what they wanted to hear on the campaign trail. Just like he told the people in Colorado that he promised them that they would be left alone.
Right, exactly. Well, all right. Well, this wasn't an article tonight. Steve, how do you feel? Do we need to move on here? Maybe we should move on. I mean, we're all on the same page with this, I think, but we're kind of getting sideways here. And make it a 2.5 or 3 hour show instead of 2 hour show.
That is what it is.
No biggie, right? Yeah, exactly. There you go.
As long as we can cover the important things, again, and I said this before, the shows that I like to do are something you put on in the background when you're working in your grow room, learn some shit about cannabis while you're working on your cannabis, working in your veggie garden, working on your car in the garage, going for a drive. So
it is great to do that. I like to go run through all my stuff and straighten everything up and put on one of the shows, Or listen to the other night show, because you're doing the show, you miss a lot of stuff too, because you're trying to prepare for what's coming up, and you end up missing things, and then you realize you listen to the show and you go, wow, that was pretty cool. I don't remember, I don't even remember that.
That part gets easier.
Anything to do with not hearing it though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. This next article is from the cannabis.co, cannabisindustry.org, organization forms to be ready for national legalization. This will be called the National Association of Cannabis Businesses. It'll act as a national association to, inform the government, Congress, the president, the DEA, whoever else about the cannabis industry, and help develop standards that the whole industry can follow.
Now, if we can get the whole government to participate in that, that'd be great.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Some things are good. Like I'm all for potency testing, and I'm all for testing of what the hell is it called?
Bugs?
Just making
pesticides.
Pesticides. Bug eggs.
Testing for those too, to make sure you have good, clean product, and then the potency on your good, clean product. I mean, those aren't unreasonable.
Yeah, exactly. Not even potency, just complete lab diagnosis, in my opinion, because people want to know exactly. I mean, if you've done your research, then you probably want to know exactly what's in your cannabis, and with that data, you can compare what combinations of terpenes produce what types of smells at what different ratios, So, I mean, that's just for the nerd, That's just for the nerdy guy that wants to know his data, like me,
Yep.
Yeah, the nerdy guy.
Next article is from mcall.com. Lehigh University looks to study cannabis effects on autistic children. I have some really good friends that went to Lehigh, or used to have really good friends that went to Lehigh when I was a kid. My sister went to school right next to there. It's pretty close to where I grew up, so it's kind of cool to see. But they're doing one of the first large-scale studies on autism in children, and using cannabis as a treatment. So
That's
interesting to see how that works out.
It never hurts for a really
there's
study.
Go ahead, Roger.
Pennsylvania is poised to.
I finished. It never hurts for a good.
Oh, okay.
For a good university, a respected university like Lehigh to do it.
I'm sorry. I thought I cut you off right there, but I was just gonna say there's absolutely already plenty of anecdotal evidence where people have given their autistic children who are violent to themselves, violent to their parents, cause lots of damage to property just in general. They're just
Sometimes.
they're just a lot more peaceful and a lot more manageable whenever they are given cannabis. You know, there's you can probably look it up on YouTube and just look up in the search bar autistic child given cannabis or something like that, and I can almost guarantee you'll find something.
You know, you're right about that. There's been all kind of people running to get into studies where they actually used it because it immediately alleviates the symptoms, you know, and it helps calm down autistic people, children. It definitely, there's without a doubt, will literally practically stop, in almost all cases, stop seizures in children.
Oh yeah.
Now, you know, I mean, there's
Right,
not
and
been
I
much
mean,
love.
just as a theory, you know, I feel like if children who are autistic are given cannabis at an earlier age, then I feel like they could probably have a better chance of recovering more of their mental abilities, you know, before they hit adulthood and their brain is fully developed, you know, because it's been proven that a lot of the stuff that these kids that are epileptic and autistic and what they're given from pharmaceuticals just do further brain damage, you know?
Right, and they're fighting all the stress and the chemical imbalance in their body too, and all that. So,
Exactly.
you probably would, well, it would store in their fatty tissue too from a younger age. I mean, which is, well, that's just, I guess, the process of what you're talking about would be that it would store in their fatty
Yeah,
tissue.
exactly. Well, I mean, also kind of speaking to the neuroregenerative, I'm sorry, I can't even spit this word out, neuroregenerative properties that cannabis has, that the different cannabinoids have, you know, both CBD and THC.
Yep. Absolutely.
Good point.
All right. Why is this laptop? Oh, having a glitch with my browser here.
It's a Pennsylvania story.
We just did that. Okay. Oh yeah, Philly. So Pennsylvania lists the applicants for growing medical cannabis. It's 46 applicants in total are aiming to try and grow medical cannabis in the state of Pennsylvania, my home state. So,
I'm surprised they're going to do that many.
And what is that licensing fee looking like, Steve?
I have no idea. I've not been following Pennsylvania law. I've been so wrapped up in.
Shit, it doesn't mention it on the article?
No, it doesn't. I've been so wrapped up in California law lately. Working on this dispensary project here, which I will be able to talk. Well, I'm not going to say anything about it until everything is fully.
It just says that they
fully
released
gone
a
through.
list of all the companies. They released a list of all the companies that wanted to grow and process medical marijuana in Pennsylvania. And you say that was 46 companies?
Yep.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like they've got the right to do it. There are 46 companies that want to do it.
Yeah, and 46 companies for a city.
Right, those are the ones that applied for the license, the applicants.
That fee, you would, of course, have to have a really nice, hefty fee to allow somebody to look at their computer and decide if you're the right place.
And 46, I mean, Pennsylvania is huge. 46 suppliers is not that many suppliers for the state that size. So
I think they're looking to target
Well,
bigger farm producers than they are for little tiny places. They want
does it mention how many? Does it mention how many they plan on choosing?
Yeah, there's a good question.
if all goes as planned, the state will award 12 of the coveted growing permits by the end of June.
12.
12. So you have about a
Two of the
fourth of
permits.
the applicants that will be awarded license by the time the process. I
This is
wonder what the
insane.
vetting process is.
This is insane. 2 of these permits are slated for the southeastern Pennsylvania. 2 permits for Philly? That's insane.
I'm
Like,
telling
how
you,
many locations are they going to be allowed to have? They're not going to be able to keep up with
targeting
that.
major farms. They're targeting big ass.
What company? Or what company did you mention, Steve?
I'm sorry, Steve. Mention a company.
Several other companies are established entities that operate in other states, such as Franklin Labs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is on Philly.com.
Yeah, that's so. Oh man, that sucks. You know, that's all I can say about that. Is that really sucks that they will just, in my opinion, sell out their own people from their own state. You know, I mean,
Oh,
if they're starting a marijuana program in their state, I feel like for the initial licensing, you should only give it to the people from in state that are applying, and then from there, you know, maybe 2 to 4 years on down the road, then you can start after you see how it's going, see how many more licensees you're going to let into the business, and then boom, open that market up to everybody. But I feel like you should at least
so.
let your people from your state get in first.
It's way worse. It's way worse than I said it was. So there's 46 companies applying for those 2 licenses for the Southeast. There's actually over 400 companies in total applied for 12 licenses.
Oh my God.
See, I think it should be limited to
That's crazy. That's like playing the fucking lottery.
I was trying to get in when you were talking about.
That's like buying a fucking super expensive lottery ticket.
I was trying to get in when you were talking about limiting it to certain people. It should be limited to producers and people like me that are already established as farmers in the state, not somebody that cut. Because you said in the state and not out of state. Well, see, that could be a corporation could open up a giant, buy a bunch of damn farms. You know, there's a ton of farmland up everywhere. You know, but I mean, in any state where you could buy a shitload of farmland, people would be glad to sell it at high dollar because they give them high dollar for this.
Right, or not even having to be farmland, to be honest. You know, like somebody who, let's say,
it helps.
Ideally, the way I would see this going would be like, okay, let's go through all these licenses that are coming in from Texas because we didn't allow any licenses from any applicants from out of state or out of the country. All right, so then we go through and we look at the companies that these license applications come from. Like, let's take I can't remember what the other guy that's on the podcast sometimes, Roger, he's from Texas, he does the True Aquaponics. Like, I don't know if he's into like commercial aquaponics already, but let's say he applies for a license and he's awarded a license because they want to see how the aquaponic cannabis goes, you know, and then they choose somebody else that does have, you know, a large acreage of farmland available to them that they're already farming and can most definitely get a really large crop out of by the end of the year or whatever, you know, like this should kind of be spread evenly across the board and evenly across the state. That way, people everywhere have access without having to drive some ridiculous amount of mileage to go and get their medicine. Or just simply allow home grows, you know.
And I can tell you how it is in South Carolina, what they're proposing in South Carolina for years. And basically, that's what I heard. And I haven't checked lately because they start these bills in Carolina, and then you never hear anything about it. They were talking about there was only going to be 3 farmers allowed in South Carolina to grow for medical marijuana. If they did it, it's only going to allow 3 farms. So,
where at now? In South Carolina?
Yeah, if they ever do it, they were talking. Now, that doesn't mean that's what they're going to do. That means what they've been talking about is they are only going to allow 3 farms for the entire state. I personally feel if they get the right farms, that could work maybe. But I hate the idea that they're cutting out so many people that could do a good job. But they're more about looking for that stability of the big infrastructure. I'm not speaking as a proponent of that. I'm just saying that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the infrastructure to consider people because they want to feel like if you don't have the infrastructure that we can see, we're not sure unless they were to sell it, like you said, to a foreign company. And look, hey, and don't get me started on that. because you just brought up a big sore spot. Can you imagine this shit? Some freaking company from Japan or China or some fucking where coming in here, and they're the ones that are got the farm.
I absolutely can imagine happening
Oh,
because
yeah,
fucking this
you
country,
talk
the
about
things
the
that people
South
do, man.
again?
I've seen Israeli growers try and take over whole markets before when I've been in the Caribbean. Then you throw down testing results that are as good or better than his, and he's like, "Wait a minute, you didn't do that." And you're like, "Yeah, I did. Here's a second lab that posted it." No, you didn't. Here's a third lab.
But they want to know proof because and they'll never have this proof because they want to go. Can you do that with like 200 acres or whether it's and then outdoors, of course, if you're a big farm in their line, you do it outdoors, which is going to be something because they're going to have to be like a gulag, right? Double fencing with guard dogs running around, security systems, and major insurance policies. Because I've been there. I'm a greenhouse grower, so I know what you have to do to grow vegetables. I mean, they want fence around so that nobody can come in your greenhouse area and trip. Steve knows. I build them. He builds. He's bigger and done bigger projects than me. But the bottom line is, if you've done it at all, you know one thing: there's infrastructure costs, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. If you're so inclined to get big enough to be a commercial viability. So that's what they're looking for: commercially viable farms already there, hopefully. But I wouldn't put it past them, like you said. That now you give me a nightmare. I won't sleep tonight. We're looking, the growers in South Carolina are going to be from frickin' fucking Saudi Arabia or some shit.
The guy from your local convenience store is going to buy your farm.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah, exactly. The guy with the hotel down in town bought the hotel.
Anyways, I don't mean to.
Sorry, guys.
I'm negative towards Israeli growers. I've just seen one company from Israel on multiple occasions, the same company, make some pretty ridiculous claims that they couldn't back up at all. So, and then try to push everyone else out of the market.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that I have a problem with their quality. It's the fact that if they don't live in South Carolina and have a farm already, or in Carolina or Colorado or Nevada or anywhere else, they shouldn't be allowed to go open a farm and grow cannabis in the state. It should be farmers that are already established in Texas or wherever else they allow it to happen.
Well,
it should not be some
yes
Johnny come lately that goes and has billions of dollars. Now you got, what it is? I'm telling you, they're going to be Monsanto. Them motherfuckers are going to end up owning the farms. A lot of them farms. Watch.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna. That's exactly the point that I was fixing to make. Is that you just don't leave any room for the small grower who can probably grow a much more cared for product and put that on the market. They may not be able to produce as much, but people are going to go after that product that they do put out there.
Yep, and they kind of do that with the California laws. So the California, there's 4 tiers, I think, or 5 tiers. I forget what the top tier is for now. I think it's 4. And they allow up to 22,000 square feet of growth space. But most of the licenses they're going to issue are going to be 10,000 square foot or less. And the maximum that you can get is 4. I think it's 4 of the 22,000 square foot licenses, or I forget what the total is, but you can only have up to 4 acres of growth. So even if Monsanto wanted to come and do it, they could only have 4 acres, which is a lot. But at the same time, if you're in a city like LA or San Francisco, you're a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, but on the other hand,
so that would be considered the commercial tier then.
That would be the biggest that you can do. Yeah.
All right. So
Right now. Shoot, I can't. Never mind. I can't talk about that.
Well, so we're back at the point where all of a sudden, magically, in a couple of years, when they get the right people in place in the legislature of California, then they can come in there and have that law changed right about the time they mop up all the land in the area they want to grow many more acres of cannabis than just 4 acres. See, that law will change as soon as people like Monsanto are in place to actually buy shit and open up a facility. Then magically that frickin' law will change because it won't have anything to do with you or I wanted to have done. It'll have to do with what the money wants to have done. That's what has to change. And again,
I think
we'll do that problem every 2 years.
I think the ultimate future of this is fully automated greenhouses with drones and light sensors that scan the plant's tissue while they're growing and adjust the plants on the fly and address insects with drones. I mean, I'm not fucking you. Like, I've seen some stuff like that already in California.
That's
like,
fucking
we're
hardcore.
not far away. But then each plant can get individual attention because of that light sensor. It'll say plant number 305, 46 down,
Yeah.
3 rows in. It's got iron deficiency. Go spray it with iron. That kind of shit. So that'll be the ultimate future. But
Or that
giving it like
same
a back-
drone is completely equipped with water-soluble nutrients that the fucking plants will take in through a foliar feed as well, right
Yep.
then and there.
Put that. What's the one, the optic foliar? We had him on the show the other day.
Yeah, that was great.
What was the spray that he has?
Dinesh.
It's really good. Yeah, Dinesh. He's a great guest. We'll get him back on the show again.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get guests on too regularly if they've been on the show before, unless they're we have a particular reason, just to get some variety. I got some really cool guests lined up. I'm working on some more cool ones. I got a bunch of people I'm in talks with emails with right now, so you guys will like it. I get Black Dog this week, so that'll be dope.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So you couldn't get the showdown, huh? Couldn't get the Black Dog Spectrum King showdown.
Oh no, we're not gonna do that.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how there was our Canadian labor union considering covering medical marijuana as part of their health bill, their benefits package. The Ontario Public Service Employees Union. And then this past week, they actually passed it formally. And now medical marijuana is formally part of their benefits package. So definitely a company you want to work for in Canada. They're based in Ontario.
That's pretty badass.
That is super dope.
I didn't think
I'm moving to Canada, folks.
And that was from
find me a fucking
Civilized.
job.
That's from civilized.life. This next article is from thegazette.com. So basically, Iowa's legislature has said that they're going to rebuff and try to fight back against Jeff Sessions if he goes after their medical marijuana program that's about to launch. So that was really good.
You know what's interesting? States have to have some recourse too against the federal government because they're just, let's face it, if they're about to launch a program and the federal government just pulls this bullshit and throws an umbrella back over, a dark umbrella over the whole cannabis industry, they've spent millions of dollars in R&D and all kinds of infrastructure building to get this done, and possibly hired a bunch of people too to put them in place, or been going through the job search applicant thing for so long, and now the federal government comes in there. So that's good to see. I love it. It seems to be that.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way that the legal cannabis community is just gonna roll over and take that shit.
Not anymore.
No, there's too much money, and there's money for lawyers. That's what it comes down to.
Yep. And all the people out there that think, oh, you're crazy. Well, you wouldn't be listening to the show, first of all, if you weren't on our side, I don't believe.
I doubt it, especially if you're this far into the show.
On our side, just think about it. If you don't like people that smoke pot, you better go ahead and pass these laws before we vote in everybody in government's going to have smoked pot. So if you don't want everybody, your government run by us, you better change these laws.
Yep.
That's just my joke.
The other
sarcasticness.
The other good thing about it is that this bill also allows Iowans with AIDS, Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, and other diseases to apply for the first time, whereas before they didn't qualify. You had to be terminal. This also allows you have to have written confirmation from a doctor, a qualifying condition. There's also a $100 fee, and there are $25 for people who participate in medical assistance program. So if you're already on Section 8 or anything, it's $25. You're Medicare or anything, it's just $25, which isn't bad at all.
No, That's excellent.
Definitely one of the more reasonable in that regard.
That sounds like a great.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
With common sense. That sounds wow.
yeah, I think I mentioned that probably on the first episode that we did,
Yeah.
is that I think, insurance should cover cannabis because cannabis is medicine,
True.
Well, we talked about Iowa. Something about Iowa the first night on the show too, I believe. But
I get so much dabs.
Oh shit.
I need moon rocks for my back. I need that.
I need a Chinese girl. That's
Hell
what
yeah.
Anyways, so the next article is from Green Rush Daily,
I'm sorry.
greenrushdaily.com. So this Australian dad was found guilty of possessing cannabis oil. And the reason why he had possessing cannabis oil is because he was using it to treat his 5-year-old daughter's severe epilepsy that refused to respond to medication. This is one of the most fucked up stories I think I've heard in quite a long time. This guy was arrested purely for trying to save his daughter's life and to make her, how well her life is day to day, just, dramatically improved.
That's what we've been talking about the whole show, about the same thing, the epilepsy and what it does for children.
Yeah,
And that's when we get pissed off, people. That's
when you hear me rage. There's only one episode. There's only one episode where I just lost it and just started just like losing it, and it was the episode where they made CBD Schedule 1, and I don't know. Yeah. So if you ever want to hear that one, go back. I think it's the one with Adam Cohen. If you ever want to
Where the DEA reaffirmed that the CBD was Schedule 1 or whatever.
Yeah, I lost it because I have personally, people in my life and my family that are alive right now because of it. So it's just completely ridiculous.
What kind of proof does everybody need that Schedule 1, this is what all you people out there need to realize. Schedule 1 means that the only way you can rate it Schedule 1 is if it has no medical benefits. It is more and more proven every day through not only government data that's been released over the past 10 years, but all the data that's been compiled today, and the fact that the states are recognizing this. You people out there need to get educated about this because it's ridiculous. They should not be allowed. These people are just taking our laws. It literally says there's without a doubt to be Schedule 1 narcotic, which is what the Schedule 1 means for those of you that aren't up on what Schedule 1 is exactly. It means that it has absolutely no medical viability, which is total bullshit. And back to Steve.
Absolute bullshit. So
I don't think it says narcotic per se, but I was actually going to ask a question. Do y'all know if mushrooms, magic mushrooms, are Schedule 1?
I
think they're Schedule 2.
Are they?
I could be wrong though. They're used. Psilocybin is used for the treatment of cluster headaches. They actually grow psilocybin and then concentrate it and put it into a pill form as a pharmaceutical version.
Oh,
okay. But I think the compound psilocybin is actually, because if you have cluster headaches, you won't trip. You'll just fix the cluster headache.
So it's a matter of the fact that this has already been manufactured and proven and researched and developed and then sold by the pharmaceutical companies. So it's Schedule 2 because it's precedented that it has medical qualities. Now, the funny thing about that is prior to Prohibition in the late 1920s, and I'm not going to go sideways on why and when or how or what they said, but prior to that, cannabis was in 33% of our medicines. 30 to 33% of our pharmaceutical medicines, the things you'd go to the dispensary or go to a pharmacist and get, had cannabis oil or extract of some type in it. And it's amazing that they, with all that proof, then they can turn around and say it's not. And not to mention the fact that we all know that if you're educated on it at all, that for thousands of years across the world, it's been used as a viable medical alternative to a lot of ailments. And the sad thing is that all those countries in the Far East and all, where you get your head chopped off if you get caught doing this or doing that when any kind of drugs, The only reason those countries do that is because the U.S. government back in the day on the war on drugs decided that all the countries we were giving aid to, if they didn't pass archaic, overzealous laws against drugs and cannabis and all, then they would lose their funding from the federal government that you and I are paying for, that we're all paying for. And they were going to lose their funding. So what are the little countries over there? Indonesia and all those other companies all over the world, not just there, Africa, everywhere. The reason they're so harsh is because it was the federal government that brought that upon us and them in the first place. Either pass these laws because they wanted to make it look like the world was against it. See, so it was all
Stockholm
implemented by
syndrome.
the U.S. propaganda and money, greed and money. If the pharmaceutical companies had any kind of thing to claim on a patent, we'd be screwed.
Yep.
Sorry, Brain, I heard you chime in for a second.
No, I was just saying it's that Stockholm syndrome. It's like they think they're getting protection, or I don't know what the hell they think they're getting, but they're really fucking being enslaved.
That's kind of my point. Yeah, they've enslaved countries. Just think about those countries didn't have to deal with that. Think about that. You know, there's stories, you know, people, some girl goes to Australia and gets caught with weed in her bag and she gets convicted. Everybody around the international cannabis community felt like it was about, I don't know, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, felt like she was set up like somebody stuffed her, did a bag exchange or a stuffing in her bag when they got a chance, that she didn't have any reason because where she went, you can legally buy. I think it was Thailand or somewhere, which is funny because you can buy or do anything. Let's just go into Thailand. Okay, you can do whatever you want in Thailand. You can smoke or do ingest any kind of drugs or anything you want to do, and let's stop at it right there. But she goes to Thailand and is carrying a 1/4 pound of weed from Australia. Come on, and you know what the penalty was? Death penalty.
Jeez.
Yeah, death penalty. A woman, like a 20-something-year-old woman from Australia.
I got a guy that's gonna come on the show I met a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago. This guy used to smuggle Thai stick by the fucking pallet, like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. This guy's one of the OG smugglers from Southeast Asia, back in the 70s and 80s. This guy's moved, you know.
Allegedly.
Is he going to be
allegedly moved thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds? This guy's for real.
Is he going to be in that dark silhouette?
Allegedly, he's for real.
No. First of all, statute of limitations on anything that he's done is long since passed. So, allegedly.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. He's allegedly done. Anything that he's allegedly done, the statute of limitations are already.
So is he going to have the dim light from behind, and all we can see is a silhouette, and we run a voice, a harmonizer, and okay.
He's one of the 2 people that is super cool that I'm trying to get on the show, or that I got to agree to do the show, but I got to wait until I have someone that I know near them that can actually facilitate the technical aspects of it, because both of them are completely technologically not literate as far as setting up Hangouts or even having a Google account. So
or a computer.
So
yeah.
I need to get them both to just use like a smartphone app and do it that way or something and get that up. But one of the guys, one of the Rastas down in Jamaica, was going to tell us about some of the crazy stories growing in the 80s and 70s, 80s in Jamaica up in the hills, rolling boulders at allegedly rolling boulders at the army and a bunch of other fun things. And the other guy is this old OG smuggler guy from the old days. I think he's even written a book or 2, and some other people have written about some of his exploits. But this guy will be cool to get on the show. I got a chance to meet him.
It's pretty hardcore.
Stayed at his house the other day, so it'll be pretty cool. Where were we? Talking points. Okay. We're pissed off about this Australian dad that got screwed over. Senate to vote. So the next one, and that was from the daily, the greenrushdaily.com. Next one is newspaper communitynewspapers.com. Senate vote on law in California, in Mexico, would allow subsidiary San Diego-based Medical Marijuana Inc. To import CBD oil to Mexico. So it allow for export out of the United States. But basically, there's a girl in Mexico who was very sick and needed CBD oil, and they weren't able to get it in Mexico, so they tried to get permission in order to import it to Tijuana, Monterrey, and Mexico City. So,
We'll chuck that one into the good news column.
hell
Yeah, happy story. Yeah, when you did a happy story.
Mexican Congress, the Congress of Mexico voted 371 in favor, 7 against, and 11 abstain. What the hell's wrong with you? You're gonna vote against an 11-year-old little girl's medicine? Like, this is a special place in hell for people like that.
Old establishment. Got to remember, you're dealing with a Catholic country too. Old establishment might have played into that.
Not only that, but you're dealing with turning around a lie that's been presented as truth in front of the whole country's faces for decades. You know, so that's you're trying to move a mountain, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
This next article.
Let's basically go ahead, Steve.
This next article is from the East Bay Times. Oakley veterans and physical pain, mental anguish joined mothers and senior citizens in front of the city council Tuesday in efforts to keep cannabis deliveries legal within city limits. Just goes back to what we were talking about earlier before when they vote to ban deliveries for cannabis. You know who's hurt? The elderly, veterans, disabled people, people that recently had children. All these other people that, how's a mom with a recent newborn or kid's supposed to be able to go to the dispensary? She can't bring the baby in there. So what do you want her to do? So this is why delivery is important. And put the baby to sleep and then get your delivery. Mommy needs to sleep too sometimes, as long as it's not near the baby. But
Right. Don't share with the baby.
There's also I know many veterans that suffer from PTSD, including myself. They would not like me if I was using cannabis. I have flashes of violence. I have horrible nightmares, dreams I don't wish on anybody. I've seen vets commit suicide because of PTSD. Medical marijuana helps all of them. It saves their lives, and the ability for them to have it delivered directly to their door saves people's lives.
That sounds like again falls back to the establishmentarianism, where it's the way it is. I mean, a lot of military guys wouldn't have a problem if their guy was able to cope by smoking pot. So I don't necessarily agree with that. But if he's a veteran, I'm not going to tell him he's wrong, because his group of people, and there are military guys I know for a fact that, and I know a lot of, I've been friends with a lot of Marines, from my affiliation with friends down in Beaufort outside of Paris Island. That with some businesses I had down there, and stayed down there 3 or 4 nights a week. These guys, they're not all like that. There's a lot of them out there that would have no problem. So you know what? If your friends don't like you because you need to use cannabis to help maintain your psychological and keep an upbeat attitude and be able to function, then fuck them. Get new friends.
Yep. There's plenty of people out there that'll accept you.
That's right, and even veterans. There's a ton of veterans out there, and even you probably sound like a young. Well, I don't know. Is this from a younger gentleman or an older gentleman? Because it might be harder for the old veterans than it is for the young veterans. Because let's face it, the military gives them all kinds of crazy shit drugs. They need cannabis when they get back. Most of them aren't this day and age. I don't think. I'm not saying our whole military is getting stoned, but at least not when they're at home. But when they're in the battlefield, they're jacked up. So that's an interesting concept, that somebody be against drugs. And I just feel bad for what they have to go through for volunteering or being part of the military, and now they got we have to always deal with something like this, where prejudice or old thoughts, old school thoughts without any educated or informed decision is what is being the downfall of this country right now. We all know anybody with a pencil and a piece of paper can figure it out real quick. As soon as we allow farmers to grow hemp, we will be great again.
Yep.
Totally. Totally.
Here's another scummy one. So Miami Beach considers yet another 6-month medical marijuana ban. So Miami Beach wants to is considering another moratorium for 6 months on medical cannabis dispensaries. Here's the reason why it's complete fucking bullshit, regardless of whether or not you think that's a good idea. Once you hear what happened before that.
I was going to make a joke, but I'm going to hear your
A
story.
new bill comes after fellow city commissioner Rick Ariola proposed multiple weed dispensary moratoriums beginning in November. After he initially pitched a 6-month ban that month, the city commission chopped it down to 4 months. A follow-up request to extend the ordinance for another 2 months was ultimately shot down. Later, a public records request revealed Ariola was emailing local businesses trying to scare them away from supporting medical marijuana. The tactic led to local documentary filmmaker and rabble-rouser Bill Corbin to label Ariola Reefer Madness Ricky. So this guy has been a scumbag and a fucking half, the city council member, and this guy needs to be voted out. This is, again, make sure you're voting for your local city council. If you want to abstain from Republicans and Democrats and all the other bullshit, that's fine. But vote on ballot initiatives, vote on your local city councilman, or they'll pull some ridiculous bullshit like this. This guy should be arrested.
Make sure you research who you're voting for too.
Yep.
Because just because they look like a nice guy on TV or whatever doesn't mean their policies are going to suit you. And that's the problem anymore. They're all, it's easy enough to look into what they're all about. And then look for the guy that's got the balls to at least say he's going to do something positive for medical marijuana and that kind of situation. Because if they're not willing to say it and they want to dodge it, then they're going to screw you when they get in office.
Yep.
So find a candidate that has the balls to say he's pro-cannabis or pro-medical marijuana. I can live with, we'll live to fight another day for recreational as long as everybody can have meds. That's the way I feel about it.
To simply get them on record saying that they're pro-cannabis is a big step. Just for any politician, that's a huge way to separate I'm not going to necessarily say the bad from the good, but to at least get them to say that they're pro-cannabis is at least getting them to kind of sort of meet you halfway, because that puts a lot of their political careers in jeopardy, whenever they simply do something as simple as saying that they're pro-cannabis. So that's a big step in its own. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Roger.
Yeah, and if they don't come through, you vote them out, and you keep voting those people out until you get a guy that follows through, or a gal, a man or a woman, a suitable candidate that follows through with the promise. And what'll happen, that'll come faster if you're diligent about voting these people in and out. If they don't come through for you, vote them out, because they're not going to come through for you next time either. So once they see that I'm only going to have one term unless I do something about this, and that's the thing, you got to show them that if they don't do the will of the people, they're only going to have one term. And if we get the voters out there and be diligent about it, we can turn this around, because there's already a lot of consciousness about this issue out there. But you have to be diligent. I hate to say it, but you have to register and you have to vote for one of those assholes.
Speaking of which, do you want to touch on that today? There's a huge clusterfuck in regards to whether or not you voted since the 2008 election. So, for those of you guys that aren't in the loop today, the GOP had a contractor that was responsible for helping keep track of voter rolls and preventing fraud. They left all of the U.S. voters' rolls since 2008 on an open public server where anyone could find it. 211 million people's records, where they live, who they are, what they're registered, politically affiliated, was leaked.
How they
So,
voted?
hope you have, yep, or who they're affiliated.
Oh,
Not how they voted, but what party they're affiliated with. So if you're
right.
registered Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if to find out, to put together if they had a vote in the last election, and if they did have a vote in the last election, if they actually used it, or if they sat at home and somebody used their vote
Well, they don't.
because of that.
They don't have a. It doesn't tell you if they voted or not. It just tells you what if they're
No, I'm saying,
just registration.
how many of those people you think, because of that list, how many like identity theft votes do you think might have happened?
Oh,
If
nobody
that list
knows when it was. Nobody knows how long it's been on there. Nobody
Yeah,
Nobody knows if it was compromised. But the security company found it and fixed it at the very end of last week, and then they announced it this week. So
Pandora's box of trouble right there.
them damn GOPers, them guppers.
Once again,
Sorry,
GOP.
I'm a liberal. But you know what? On that note, though, when I was at Occupy, and that last the Miami Beach one was from the Miami Times, MiamiTimes.com, or MiamiNewTimes.com. I'm sorry. The next one coming up. Is from the Telegraph. What was I saying before that? Sorry. Lost my train of thought there. What was I saying right before that?
Wait, what? Fuck.
I thought you were talking about
I'm not
Miami for a
100%
second.
sure.
I don't know.
Sorry, I had to
Fuck it.
move.
We'll do it live. We'll write it and we'll do it live. Fuck it. Anyways.
Oh, shit.
Telegram.com. This is an article, and I wanted to touch on this because this is the real impact of the bullshit that Jeff Sessions is pulling right now. Just so you guys are aware, parents fear loss of medical marijuana for seizure control of their children, and you've been struggling for years to find a medication because your child has Tourette syndrome. Similar to this guy in Australia, exact same syndrome. Tourette syndrome does not respond to cannabis or any kind of treatment with traditional seizure medications. It just doesn't work. But it does respond to cannabis extremely well. They interviewed a family. This place from the UK came over and interviewed his family. It has an 8-year-old daughter named Maddie, and she went from having 75 to 100 seizures a day to 15 to 40 after 1 day of treatment. Like, what the hell is wrong with these fucking assholes that want to take away a medicine that works like that? Like, you have to be a sick and sadistic and twisted human being to want to take that kind of thing away from a child.
Also.
There's no other explanation for it than just pure sedition.
That's the kind of child I was exactly like that child I was talking about. I always talk about in South Carolina. The first time it's never seen this, I don't think this might have been a precedent of all time. One day, this child with that kind of tremors, that kind of those seizures and those kind of tremors, were going from 90 or 100 a day down to like a few, and they were just mild tremors. In South Carolina, it became a national story. They were going to move to Colorado. In 3 days, the South Carolina legislature passed the CBD oil law, which allowed for it to be prescribed only to and limited to epileptic seizure patients, like children and all like that. So they did, but 3 days, 2 or 3 days for that very thing. So it just has to come out in the news, and because people aren't tolerating that anymore, because too many people are in the know. It's we're not in the dark ages anymore. It's just It's a matter of more people getting on board, and I always go back and follow up with the people I mentor and teach at the forum. I always talk about how they're so much older They're 50, 60, 65 years old. I'm teaching new growers that are 55, 60 years old that are retired, and they're just sick of, so, and they know, so that when you get more of those people who go out and vote, that you never had that voting category or that age group voting for cannabis before. Now we've got, it's going to take a couple of elections and for actual bills to be out there for people to vote for. And I think we're going to get a bigger change because we've got the seniors, like me. But I mean, I've always been on board, but we've got seniors that are professionals, like I always say, across the board professionals that are now in here, and they're not going to tolerate these kids suffering because they're educated. They're all educated. Most of them have college degrees, and now they're growing pot the first time for 55, 60 years old because they don't want to drool on themselves. They want to go play with the grandchildren. And as we get their vote, that this is all going to change. So again, we're all pissed off about the ignorance that in state legislatures and all that would rob a child of medicine that would keep her calm or him or her calm. And yeah, and like Steve says, this kind of shit that pisses us off.
Yeah, this is when we get real riled up. So the next article, and that was from, we already read the website. So this next article is from entrepreneur.com. $5 billion challenge medical marijuana poses to the big pharma. If drops in prescription drug use seen in states with legalized medical marijuana are duplicated nationwide, big pharma will really feel the pain. It's basically how a lot of pain medications, post-traumatic stress disorder medications, sleep aids, anxiety medications, nerve pain medications, chemotherapy, nausea medications, Tourette syndrome medications, glaucoma medications, and seizure and epilepsy medications all have a dramatic reduction in prescription rates in states that have legal medical or recreational cannabis.
Hey, Big Pharma, we want you to feel the pain. Yes.
Oh yeah, those fuckers have killed some of my best friends. So.
And then when you get tired of the pain, you can smoke some pot and it'll take away the pain.
They killed Chris Cornell, you bastards.
Oh yeah. Well, so what's the big significance of that, Steve?
Oh, I just thought it was nice to see another bigger article on how they're, why these are really being held up and slowed down. It's a threat to pharmaceutical companies and a threat to the alcohol industry, who are the two people you've heard about today. The alcohol lobby in Nevada and pharmaceutical companies lobbying against it in states like New Mexico and Arizona.
That fact needs to constantly be pushed in front of people's faces.
Exactly.
Like, look, we're not fucking criminals. You know what I'm saying? We don't want this shit legal so we can just smoke. Those of us that use it recreationally, we do want it, legal so the fucking government will fucking get off our ass, But medicinally, this is held up so much because of the control that the pharmaceutical industry has over your politicians. Plain and simple.
No, tobacco, don't leave tobacco out of that because they're right in there with the pharma companies on this issue.
Definitely. The prison industry.
Well, they want it, Steve. The tobacco companies want it because they can produce it, but it's the same thing. They want to be able to have a handle and a patent before they want it legalized so that they can, Marlboro and I need to stop saying that. I don't need to be advertising.
And to look at it from the prison angle, that's why Jeff Sessions is putting so much pressure on it right now, because he is funded by the private prison industry and he wants to make more money. And he has investments in the private, not only is he funded by them, but he has investments in the private prison industry.
And that's just a turnkey situation where they almost guarantee the way they treat prisoners and lack of education and stuff in those corporate prisons to where they plan on them coming back. They don't prepare them to get out and do anything else. They put enough pressure on them to where they're all getting out and being, like they always say, you went into prison as a criminal and you came out a mastermind of crime, and it's not always good because these people come out and they've got a label on them and they've got to suffer. So they got to fight for everything they get. And sometimes that fight
that's how society works, man.
It goes into a prison mentality And that's where we're all suffering. Yeah, with that. But I don't know how we went to the prison thing off of this article, but that's a good point, though. Good point.
Oh yeah, and that's what this is about. The private prison lobby is having to close prisons, and they're wanting to fill them back up again, and they're not happy at all about the legalization movement and the mass reduction in incarceration. And again, this also goes back to what we were talking about last week, with the whole racism aspect. The country is becoming less racist as a whole, so it's getting harder and harder to keep pushing this institutionalized racism and racist-based incarceration.
Again, because the older establishment's either dying off or starting to see the light. So that's going to also help again in this thing. I hate to keep beating on that, but the more that we have these different issues that are, yeah, and again, now a lot of these older established people are into these corporations that are kind of running this stuff. But overall, this is an issue that where the voters are the mass. That's not the top 5%. They're the 80% that are struggling in life, and they, we're and on every issue, the education of the older established retired people are going to really come to help out in this kind of thing. And hopefully we can, I doubt it'll ever happen, but it's sad that our prison system's turned into a major corporate thing. It's no longer hardly how many. I'd like to know. Maybe this will be for a follow up next week. If somebody wants to type in a note for Steve on the side there about, we can look up and talk about how many states actually have state run prisons anymore. How many states actually have that are all sold out to corporate America to run their prisons? And
I mean, I'm not gonna just give away my location like that, obviously, but there's fucking for-profit prison not less than a few miles away from where I live, and it's crazy because it's all about the money. And I mean, to add on to the point that you were just making, not only is it's bad that we've gone to that corporate model for prisons, but it's even worse that our politicians have no shame in continuing that pattern.
They get paid.
It's modern day slavery.
Well, the other one that's just as bad is Mothers Against Drug Driving and Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You know what they are actually? In fact, they're not groups of family members that are actually concerned about people that have done something. They're a branch of State Farm Insurance Company, and they basically get this monopoly on classes you have to take if you are caught, driving with something in your car.
So they're the ones where you have to go to treatment. Court order classes,
the court order classes,
like your pretrial
intervention. Monopoly on it in a bunch of different states. And again, it's not an organization about families that are trying to make an impact on the world. It's bullshit. It's just a bunch of fake actors that are not at all, haven't lost any family members or anything. It's just a State Farm. In fact, I had to pick a friend of mine up from a class a couple months ago. They even had their State Farm insurance shredders on. They didn't even try to hide the fact. It was like, come on, at least try and give a shit.
Well, that's what it's turned into. But I wanted to do a disclaimer for all you mothers out there that are members of the organization. We're not trying to offend you. We're just trying to say that basically corporate greed has built this for you, and not that it's not an important issue.
I'm sure there's a couple of good ones.
We're noticing that corporate people are out there running your events, and it doesn't put a very good light on it when you're. I mean, we don't want drug drivers running over children. We're not saying that. We're just saying corporate greed is running your community.
Yeah, no one here is pro drunk driving or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, they use this fake premise in order to get mandatory income from every conviction, and it's bullshit. There should not be this commercial connection between the two.
You sure they don't own?
Especially a branch of State Farm Insurance.
You sure State Farm don't own the prisons too?
Oh, I'm sure they do. This next bill is from the tcpalm.com. Florida legislature this month passed Senate Bill 8A. This will basically prevent townships from putting in bills that prohibit how close dispensaries can be from one another, how close they can be to schools, and a bunch of other things that are previously were allowed to be regulated on a township level. Only a handful of townships had passed regulations for this in Florida, so it's not going to affect that many townships. But
Well, that's something's got to pan out before we can really got to see what happens there, don't we?
yeah. Next one comes from the WAFB.com. I guess it's CBS for Louisiana. Contractor chosen for Louisiana medical marijuana production, which I was shocked about because I figured Louisiana would probably be near the end of the list of places that legalized.
Well, they've got New Orleans, you know.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, Las Vegas-based company GB Sciences was chosen from 7 potential vendors.
That's great news. It is great news that Louisiana's on board here now. So.
Slow and steady start, I guess. Law will eventually get medical-grade marijuana to people with cancer, severe forms of cerebral palsy, seizure disorders, epilepsy, muscular dystrophy, and other diseases. Let me say hi there, Mizu. Kitty, I think, is trying to say hi. Eligible patients are expected to have access to the drug next year.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
There's a bunch of
Suck another
stories
one for the
about
good news column.
Southern University in Louisiana's other authorized medical marijuana growers also remains in the planning stages.
Right on.
Oh, okay. I was waiting on you. Yeah, it's another story. That's some great stories tonight like that about there is actually some progressive, proactive things that are happening despite all the negative things we talk about. So
Yeah, there has been a few good articles.
Yeah, there's that's about
to be all,
article right there about positive things happening. So that's nice.
I don't mean to be all fire and brimstone. Just this week had a couple of really bad ones. So. Study contradicts negative stereotypes about marijuana consumers. A study that claimed to be the first of its kind found cannabis consumers are among the most well-adjusted and successful American adults. Study by BDS Analytics compared 3 categories: consumers, people who consumed cannabis products in the past; acceptors, people who do not consume cannabis but might consider it; and rejectors, people who do not consume cannabis and would not consider it.
Each his own.
There you go.
Matter of choice.
That was on KDVR.com. The next article is from the Missoulian.com. Montana medical marijuana dispensary owner sentenced to federal prison. And I'll explain why this is kind of bullshit. Technically, this guy violated the law, but not really. So he was abiding by state law, but they found out that he was previously had a felony conviction. So what did they do? They raided him and treated him like he was a felon and that he was doing a bunch of illegal stuff. They charged him. They pled guilty to a federal charge of conspiracy to manufacture and distribute marijuana for signing a plea agreement with federal prosecutors and dismissed 3 other charges. But basically, this guy owned a dispensary. It was one of the first dispensaries to be authorized in Wyoming, or I'm sorry, in Montana. And he had a prior felony conviction. He was not allowed to own be a medical marijuana provider. Marijuana's original marijuana provider rules only ban people with felony drug convictions from being providers, but that ban was expanded by the legislation in 2011 to include all felonies. So as you can see, like, this guy wasn't really violating the law. He just kind of got fucked over by changing, evolving laws, which is why they need to be more.
That's pretty fucked up, man.
And this guy, again, wasn't growing over his plant count, wasn't selling over state lines, wasn't breaking any rules. All he did was, happen to have a previous conviction. So they charged him with felony.
So he had a previous, what does it say what his previous charge was?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Had a prior felony conviction, and he was not allowed. It just says he had a prior felony conviction.
It just says prior felony. Either way, that's still pretty fucked up because you know, it's just another way that the government steps on your head and tries to keep you out of the game, you know.
Well, this
Nothing
is
new
just
there, though.
what you need to do is take this kind of shit to jury trial. You know, plead your case to a jury of your peers. They're gonna see if this is bullshit and that you weren't violating the law and how they just fucked you over for the sake of fucking you over.
They have absolutely no right to be doing this to people because they're the ones that have been doing the oppression. You know, they've been oppressing people over marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it, for decades, you know, and now they're the ones that stand to make billions of dollars off of it. They should have absolutely no say in who can get into the business if they have the required, you know, money to pay a licensing fee or however you want to look at it. You know, you got money to open up your own business and you have money for your licensing fee, then you know, they should absolutely have no say in who can get in on this because they're the ones that have been holding people hostage over this for decades.
And a lot of law enforcement are just, you know, they just won't give it up.
Nope.
They just won't give it up. I mean, there's a lot of law enforcement officers that would. There's a lot of them on record saying they would. But there's still, you know, there's a lot of zealousness over that. Like, well, they want to paint that picture of doom. Like, you know, like we're back in the 1920s again. You know, and all the minorities are going to smoke cannabis and rape our women and pillage the cities and all the rich folks. We better shut it down. But
and a lot of them, a lot of these guys too, they're benefiting from these search and seizure laws, and overturning the search and seizure laws on a local level will get rid of this problem. It'll make it no longer this money pot for them to hit up, and then they won't fight it so badly because it's not
that's
free.
That's an excellent point.
And that's the root of the problem is these cops are so used to having this money jar where they can go and just shake people down, and when you take that away, you know, they don't have the same ability to fuck with people, and they don't have the same incentive to go after people illegally.
Yep. Well, how many stories?
That's how they get rich.
In the last few years in Colorado, you've heard of many stories of, but on the total opposite, where the cops are backing off because they don't want to screw up because of the search and seize. You know, when they search and seize a place that they've gone in and raided a guy with medical marijuana license and all, and they tore everything up, and then he wins in court. So in some cases, they backed off a little bit, but still they're using it. Like you said, it's a cash cow. It's a cash cow, search and seizure. Boy, they make a ton of money taking your stuff. You know, if the statutes are written that way in some of these locations around the world or the country.
Yep. So, the last article we have for today, before we get to the dumbass articles of the week, is Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania fired back at Jeff Sessions after he said wrote the letter to the governors and prosecutors asking for mandatory minimums and maximum sentencing for prosecutors and drug convictions, and said that he did not have the right to deny people the right to medicine. We do not need the federal government getting in the way of Pennsylvania's right to deliver relief through our medical marijuana program. Given the bipartisan and medical consensus for medical marijuana in Pennsylvania and many other states, I am disturbed to know they are actively pursuing a change in federal law to go after medical marijuana suppliers. I basically wrote him a really pissed off letter, which is awesome. So, way to go, Governor of Pennsylvania. Way to see my home state having a backbone and telling Sessions to go fuck himself.
Exactly. So I'm saying that's what I was mentioned earlier. It's always good to know that we have somebody standing up for us.
Yeah, they need something in Pennsylvania to get them going too. There's a lot of distressed people up there. I tell you what, the right kind of cannabis legislation would allow them to all be a lot better off and prosper too.
Pennsylvania, what they need to do is find a way to get greenhouses and cannabis production up in the coal country for export out of the state. That's what they need. There's so many little Rust Belt towns from the iron booms back
Yep.
in the day in Pennsylvania that are the coal booms that are just dead and
Well-
have just a few people left in them, and they're the towns that would really benefit from some of this stuff. If they could develop, into take some of their old warehousing buildings or these huge factory buildings they have that are sitting empty and convert them into grows.
There's steel mills up there.
And
All
a
the
steel
steel
mill,
mills shut down because all the corporation moved south.
Yep.
To the right to work states, because Pennsylvania has labor unions, and they said, well, fuck this. And I knew guys that were making like high $20-something an hour, and the company was sold, and they said, well, here's the deal: you can have your union all, but we're only going to pay you $12 or $15 an hour, and if you don't like it, you can quit, and or whatever. And they really went through it, and they ran a whole bunch of people off and cut down the workforce up in Titusville, Pennsylvania, because I was up in the Oil City, Franklin area in northwest Pennsylvania, about an hour north of Pittsburgh, for a few years. And yeah, I know what you're talking about a little bit up there. How it is. It's sad too, because you go by these giant buildings, like Steve says, you go by these giant buildings, and it's just abandoned. It's just everywhere. There's giant warehouses and facilities that you could definitely do that and revive. And you know what? 80% of the people in these towns and cities up there in northwest Pennsylvania are on welfare. It's the first time ever. I mean, I can't say I'm pro or con against welfare. I just say it's needed. But this is the first time I could say, if you were a kind of person that said, well, they should get a job. Well, if you go to northwest Pennsylvania and look at the place where all the steel mills closed down and all, and these people have like 50 frickin' relatives in town, and you could see the reason why they wouldn't want to move or relocate to have a job, and they live there. It's the first time I thought welfare really had a place that I could see where, they deserve it. Because why should they have to move from where their whole family's grown up for a century? Because the way the government has been run and the way corporations are run, corporate America has left northwest Pennsylvania. And Ohio too. And I'm sure it's that way on the east side too, because I take it you're from the east side there.
Alrighty.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
Before we wind things up, make sure you guys check out ouroborosfarms.com. They have a bunch of different classes and other informational stuff that you can check out over there. With a bunch of more. Yeah, definitely check them out if you're interested in taking class. I teach the cannabis class and the medicinal herb class as well over there. Alrighty, we're ready to go on to the dumbass articles of the week. Where we bring you completely bullshit fucking cannabis articles, or ones that are so fucking ridiculous that there's just no way that you can take them seriously. We've had some really, really good ones.
They're real.
But they're real.
They're real.
This one comes from us from AJC.com. Gainesville man arrested for allegedly making bombs and growing marijuana. Now, they show the photo of this guy's grow. Now, here's the estimated street value of the cannabis was $9,050. Now, when they show you, now, before I tell you guys, I don't know if you guys have looked at the article yet. Don't scroll down. How much weed do you guys think is actually in the photo?
Oh, shoot, you got me caught up there.
About 5 pounds of some real good herb. I'll say 5 to 7 pounds.
Okay, what do you think, Roger?
I'm trying to get, because I remember I'm blind. I'm trying to go find my way over here and get by.
Well, how many pounds do you think they're claiming is $9,000? How much volume do you think?
I'm looking for the picture.
Pounds or live plants? I won't even tell you what it is that they present. Don't look at the picture. You're supposed to just comment based on the $9,000.
Oh, $9,000. Oh, well, I told you earlier. Well,
how much do you think they estimated that to be?
Bringer already gave an estimate. So without looking, you want without looking at the picture, they said $9,000. two plants, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like half a pound.
So
That they
it's
were blowing out of proportion.
Well,
It's
I mean,
actually-
an ounce could be worth $10,000 if you watch movies, right? So,
All right. Are you guys ready for what it actually was? In a 2x2 or 3x3 Rockwell cubes.
so it was
Two
worth
live
2x2 or
clones
3x3 inch.
in a 2-inch or 2-inch or 3-inch by 3-inch. I
Holy
can't quite
shit.
tell by scale because of the picture. Fucking clones. They're fucking clones. And they're saying it's $9,050
clones.
for 2 fucking clones.
Yeah.
Who the fuck's gonna buy a $4,500
Well,
clone?
that must be the unicorn
The
of
fucking
cannabis
bombers.
strains right
Dude,
there.
That shit makes you see unicorns. That makes you ride one. And then the unicorn gives you a blowjob. Like for $9,000,
Hell yeah.
$4,500 a clone and better. Like that's. But just so you guys are aware of, like, I remember when I was a teenager. Maybe not a teenager. I was in my 20s. I did some drug bust in Philly back when I used to live back east. And I worked out the math was like $140 a gram for weed. Like, are you fucking retarded? Like, what the
Holy
hell's wrong with
shit.
you? I'm
See,
sorry
they're
if you're offended
assuming
whether we're retarded, but like, are you sick in the head? Like, you just have like an
Not even for
incapacity
a
to
gram of
comprehend math?
extract.
Like, cocaine isn't $145 a freaking gram. Like, like nothing is. I'm trying to think of like any drug that's that much. I can't think of any drug that's that much money.
it's just crazy. They've been doing that forever, though. You see them rip out like 12 plants that are
Maybe if you had pure THCA crystallate, maybe even that is kind of. But this was with.
Yeah, that's
way
what I'm saying.
before
Not
that
even
was
a-
even
Not even a
thing.
concentrate.
They were talking
Anyways.
about not even flowering plants. They're going by the finish. What they estimate would be the finished product because they've already got it in their, in their mind. Like there's I don't know where this magic scale is, but their magic little scale or their little paperwork says, yeah, well, if they have this plant, it would grow up to yield this many ounces or whatever, and then they multiply that by what they think is the value, which we all know.
I think everyone gets 4 pounds per plant per light, on a 250 watt.
With 240 watts, yeah.
They'll call it a grow lab, not a grow room. Gotta make it sound like it's meth,
Yeah. Well, highly.
They'll call it drug lab.
They like to call it
They'll find like a 3-bag. The police will raid some guy, find like a 3-bag bubble hash kit, a garden hose, and a 5-gallon bucket, and an eighth of weed to be like, we found a drug lab. It's so stupid.
Yeah, they call it high-tech grow labs here, or high-tech grow rooms here now. It's like you got a timer on the light and a fucking ventilation system, so you're high-tech grow lab.
High-tech.
Call smart pots with Pro Mix or something, or Box.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, this tech was probably made when somebody was high.
Yeah, get high tech, baby.
That's my favorite time of the show.
All right, we got one last bullshit article this week. Miley Cyrus quit smoking marijuana because she thought it would kill her. I kept having this nightmare where I was seriously horrible. I had this dream that I would die during a monologue on SNL, and that I would just get so stoned that I would die in the monologue. I think you just fucking
wonder what else she was on.
It had nothing to do with the
coke or something. Yeah, like fucking how many other drugs is she on?
Yeah, like she was tripping her ass off, like stuff, paranoid as
When she
fuck.
fell asleep that night.
Right? It's so fucking stupid.
Huh. Too bad for Miley. Well, we're sorry for you, Miley. Maybe think about your.
She's gonna quit smoking weed like Snoop Dogg quit smoking weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just quit buying it.
That's a shame. I'm sure there's a lot of Miley fans we're gonna offend, but she is what
I
she
used to
is.
smoke weed, but I still do too.
We're gonna die. I'll probably be smoking when I die.
Right?
And for all
I'm
you
gonna
health
get
nuts
buried
out
with the last fucking plant I ever grew.
there, I hear you.
Well,
With all those health nuts out here too, we want to say medical marijuana is very much better to be ingested by vaporizer as opposed to smoking it. Smoking anything is bad for your health.
Or
A little public service announcement for the day.
eating it fresh or juicing it. I mean, there's medicinally, there's a lot of there's. I mean, I'm not gonna say a lot, but like eating it, I definitely recommend eating it, whether it's in an edible or if it's in the fresh plant form. Whether you're just eating the leaves off of the cannabis plant or the buds off of the cannabis plant, just fresh plant cannabis is definitely good for you medicinally.
yep.
And if you're doing edibles, keep in mind there's portions. There's portions out there. If you don't know exactly what the portions are, be careful at first and find out your tolerances. Because the only bad effects I've ever heard of is since this new boom with the legalization of cannabis, both medically and for recreational use, has been people over ingesting edibles. So just take it slow. Don't say, oh, brownies, and eat a whole freaking pan of brownies with some,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it's
watch
definitely
out.
also not for newbies. Like if you've never tried cannabis before, edibles is not the
Right.
way to try cannabis because
Or
you're gonna get the most potent effect just as much as from smoking it because you have no THC in your system. And if you do an edible and take the same amount, if you let's say you happen to dose your system with the same amount smoking that you would eating it is still going to compound the effects, and you're probably not going to be able to handle it.
This is not your grandfather's brownies we're talking about here.
Yeah, the edibles.
The science has evolved a whole lot, you know. Because I remember
Yeah.
back in the day where people were literally grinding up pot and cooking them in the freaking brownie mix. Okay, they don't do that no more. They make a can of butter or some kind of extra, right?
Honestly, I don't advise against doing that, to be honest, because
Yeah, it
like
tastes like poop.
to get the whole plant in there, I don't see that as a bad thing. People just
Well,
think about the taste, in
right.
which
Well,
for the
that's
most part, if you're making cannabis edibles and the taste comes through, it's not going to taste amazing anyway. So if you're not worried about the taste, then I wouldn't say don't worry about pulling out the plant material. But I don't know. It's just to each his own on that one, because I really feel strongly about whenever you're taking edibles to like sometimes I'll leave the plant material in there. Like I remember one time like I made some German chocolate cake and in the frosting, you know how the frosting of German chocolate cake is like shredded coconuts and pecan. So like you can't even notice
yeah.
that the plant material is in that anyway. It goes right along with the texture of what you're having. So also take stuff like that into mind. Like I don't know, I'm a little bit
So,
of a
so the cannabis won't
a
kill
real
you, but
big buff on baking.
the cannabis won't kill you, but the cholesterol from that butter and that frosting will. You know.
Right.
I never heard anybody. I mean, that's because I'm not that much. I mean, I like it, but I'm not that much into it. And we, again, when you live where I live, you don't get to go around and hang out with a bunch of people doing edibles all the time. But I've never heard
Need to
anybody
come to
put
Cali.
frosting on anything. I never heard of being frosting be put on, but you're actually talking about putting the organic material in the frosting
Oh, I
on the.
got you one
Yeah,
better.
like decarb, like I put it in there decarbed, and then like what I'll do is like because whenever you make a frosting, you're using powdered sugar and butter or oil as your
Right,
main ingredients. You know what I mean?
right.
That's what creates the creamy frosting texture. So
Yeah.
whenever you infuse the butter, just leave the plant material in there if you're doing something like that. I highly recommend leaving it in there.
So allegedly, once upon a time, uh,
Allegedly.
used to see something called Galaxy brownies, which I haven't seen anywhere else except for this one particular place I lived. And they'd do pot brownies, and then there was a guy there that would take psilocybin mushrooms and mix them with alcohol and then or into an oil, and mix that with frosting and put that on the frosting. So you'd have like a pot and mushroom brownie.
Huh, like a drizzle.
That would be awesome. I would love to try something like that.
And if you try that, don't eat too much of that either.
Yeah, I mean with mushrooms, man, I could talk about mushrooms all day, but like with mushrooms, like I don't feel like they're not one of the more intense psychedelics, which I mean I will say that I've only tried mushrooms, you know, as far as psychedelics go. But with mushrooms, you know, I never like, and I was like I would take some pretty big doses, you know, like we're talking about like bigger than 3 to 5 grams, you know, more than that, just so I could try and feel the psychedelic, trippy, hallucinogenic effects, you know. And sometimes I mean, I'll say more often than not, I wouldn't really get there, you know, because I don't know if it's just a tolerance that my body naturally develops quickly, but like the first few times I did it, you know, I was like, all right, cool, you know, we fucking coasting along, having a really badass trip. But after a while, it kind of just seems like I stopped having that. But what never went away is like with mushrooms, you get a super amazing body high, where you like your skin gets real sensitive and tingly, and your body just feels like extremely, extremely relaxed.
Well,
So like the body high is amazing from mushrooms.
we
For those
used
of
to
you who don't,
boil them out here and put them in like one of those
no,
little
no, no, no.
medicines. Oh, I tripped your ass off. But we used to pick them out of the cow
Yeah,
pasture.
I've
Would
done
have
that.
worked better
Chop
if
them
you
up and
didn't
Oh,
boil
not
boil
it.
picked
them
them out, not picked them
and
out like
drink
that, but I've
Would
I've,
have
drink
I've
one of
better.
boiled
those
them into a tea.
little
The
medicine cups.
psilocybin starts to break down at 110 Fahrenheit. Never boil it.
Well, maybe these guys they cooked it slowly then. Yeah, you know, but they
Is
cooked
it
it.
that low? I don't think it's
Then when
that low that it starts to boil down.
To start.
Anyway, we would do that tea and we would be getting fucked up.
I
So
tripped my
for
ass
those
off. I
of
left
you,
my balls off for like an hour and a half, and then then I had tunnel vision on whatever I looked at, and I couldn't, you know.
I'm gonna have to go look that up after this is over.
for those of you guys that aren't aware, along with legalizing cannabis, Jamaica also legalized psychedelic mushrooms for recreational use and medicinal use in Jamaica, along in the same bill that they legalized cannabis. So
Do
if
you
you
have
happen
to
to
be a
visit,
resident of
check out.
Jamaica or
No, you
take?
don't. Nope.
Oh,
Over to the
Well,
grill. There's one somewhere in Montego Bay now. Someone told me they just opened. I haven't been to Jamaica in a couple months, so I'm not up on what's current. I'll be back down there again before this year and again in April. So I got 2 trips scheduled sometime in the next 8 months, 6 months.
yeah, the reason I asked is because you can't go down there and play like electric guitar or sing. Like I couldn't go down there and get a gig and play in a club because they only allow
Sure you could.
locals.
Sure you
Well, I
can.
could do it, but not get paid.
No, you can get paid.
A friend that
I
goes
used to
down
get.
there every year.
I got a
He's-
paid. When I was working down there, I got a paid stand-up gig.
Huh. Well, I got a friend that goes down there and plays guitar and sings every year. In fact, he just got back because he goes every winter. And
Give me his number. I'll put him in touch with someone. I'll fix that.
I'll get you. Well, maybe we'll just pass it along if maybe or something like that. Yeah.
That's no problem. I'll fix that. Don't worry about it.
I'd love to do it. Well, I mean, he's loved down there. He's beloved down there. He goes down and plays with everybody. You probably could, if you went down there in the winter, we don't need to go too far off on this, but
Anyways,
if you went-
yeah. We'll do this off the show.
yeah, this is on a different show too. Anyway, maybe.
A little long.
Yeah, we've got a long show. We might have to limit those topics. We've discussed that. We might have to.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know, we limit to 40 or 35. I think
Well,
that's a good
I-
number. Aim
I
for
think
2
if we
hours
can-
is kind of think is a max.
If we can coordinate a little better, I think in the future, but we can talk about this later too. But I got some ideas to tell you after the show. I think
Cool.
we had a lot of topics.
Cool. We'll touch on it then. Why don't you guys plug your channels, or how people find you, reach you, social media things, promotional stuff.
cool. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm always uploading to Instagram at BrainGrow, BRAYNE_grow, and also on YouTube. I actually just barely posted a garden update to my YouTube channel today. So if anybody wants to go check that out, just head right on over to Brain Grow on YouTube, and you can check out my stuff. I'm trying to, well, I've got a lot more stuff going on lately, so I'm trying to at least release one video every week. It used to be I was trying to do every 2 weeks at least, but with how much stuff I have going on right now, I'm trying to do something every week. So just check me out on YouTube, guys.
Fantastic.
How about you, Roger?
Oh yeah, and then also join the discussion over at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. I'm on the forum over there too, talking about aquaponic stuffs.
How about you, Roger?
Well, it's funny, he segued right into me. Well, I help run I Love Growing Marijuana, and I'm happy to say that both Steve and Brain Grow are members there and help out. And you can actually, although you can just go to YouTube, if you join the forum, you can keep up with what's going on with the podcast, because we have a little section we're going to be opening up, so Steve can put his post his podcast. And I'm not sure. We have to talk about this because he's got his own agenda on as far as serving up an area. I think I can segue to Steve here. You can come all see me at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. I'll help you out with any grow needs. And if I can't help you, I'll send you to somebody I know will help you. And we got tons of great, knowledgeable, and friendly. It's the friendliest cannabis forum on the net. There's no bullshit there. You won't come out there and get cussed out or being made to feel stupid. We want to help everybody out there. And I think I'll pass it on to Steve and let him close up the show.
Sure. If you guys are interested in learning more, we have another show on Thursdays called the Growing with Fishes podcast. We touch a lot more on grow topics. We have guests that come on the show, industry guests. Last week's show with Mammoth P was one of the best episodes we've had to date. It was really good.
Yes, it was.
Make sure you check it out. This week we have Black Dog LED. That'll be a great episode. We had another good episode with Kingdom Aquaponics, and before that I think was Spectrum Kings. So we've had a lot of really cool guests. We might have had someone else in there somewhere that I'm forgetting.
That's who's out in Texas, Brain Grow, Kingdom Aquaponics. That's the guy in Texas.
No, he's in Massachusetts.
Oh, it was all right. Well, I'm sorry. It was the week before. I thought we had a guy from Texas that was on.
Oh yeah, that's Roger. That's a different guy. That's the other Roger.
Okay. Another Roger. Oh, the other Roger. Yeah, that was
the other Roger.
Yeah.
If you're interested in listening to the show in audio format, we now are supported on SoundCloud. I'm also going to get everything up on iTunes and everything else. Having a few issues with the RSS feed, but I will get that sorted out. What else? You can email me at potentponics.com with feedback or any articles we may have missed from the last week. I really would enjoy feedback, especially on this show. We haven't been doing it as long. The other show, we kind of have the format down. This one, we're still kind of feeling things out. So feedback is much appreciated. Thank you very much. And check us out on potentponics.com. Working on redoing the website right now. And then I have some other cool projects I'll be relocating soon. And some other cool projects coming up in Central California. So we'll have that.
Huge thanks to everybody that tunes in live, by the way.
Hell yeah. Thanks to all the live supporters and questions you guys give us. This week we had not so many questions, but we had quite a few different viewers for different parts of the show, and about 4 people that stuck around the whole 2.5 hours. So that was really great. But we've had, 12, 16 people at different parts of the show. So it's been great. So.
And one thing I wanted to say this about Thursday night's show. For all most of the people on the panel are aquaponics growers, but they were not aquaponics growers their entire life. And the one thing great about this show is Steve doesn't limit it to aquaponics people. We have information that's incredible every week. And if you really want to learn about growing, I guarantee you, if you listen to Thursday Night Growing with Fishes podcast, whether you're aquaponics, hydroponics, or a soil grower, especially with the dual layered root zone and all, you can learn a lot of stuff about your root zone in your soil or soilless mixes too. And Steve's very open to that. It's not all about just aquaponics. This is a wide open. I mean, the knowledge you can get from the show is incredible. And like he said, the guests have been incredible. You know, some of the guests that have been on there, Dinesh with Optic Foliar, and this week Mammoth P. That's my two favorites right there. You got one guy that's got a foliar spray that everybody seems to love, and I've never been a proponent of foliar sprays, and I think he hit on something. And then Mammoth P with the biologicals last week. If you got to watch that show if you want to learn some stuff about what you might be able to do in your root zone. And this was not, his product is not just for cannabis. He does major farms, industrial and commercial work with big farms and stuff with this product. So yeah, that was a great show. Yeah, I agree. Best show ever, probably, you know, maybe. I don't know. I've only been around a few weeks, you know, but it was pretty close.
Yeah, I won't necessarily pick a best show, but I would definitely say that the Spectrum King
Very
and
informative.
Mammoth P episodes, and along with the Optic Foliar episodes, were all some of the most informative we've ever had. And a lot of those
Definitely. I totally enjoyed the Spectrum King episode because they were dropping a little bit of knowledge on people that I think is probably misunderstood about the humidity levels and stuff like that. That was super interesting. I was like, holy shit, that was blowing my mind. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yep, they touched on vapor pressure deficit and a bunch of other things that a lot of people
Right.
never even are exposed to. Better yet,
Exactly.
have an understanding of.
Support both podcasts.
It'll help them make decisions. No, and I'm sorry I did leave out Spectre King, but that was a great show too. It's just since I've been there, my favorite was last week. Galen, right? Galen.
Colin.
Colin. I'm sorry, Colin. But yeah, I really like Colin. I mean, the guy sitting there in his office at the company talking to us on it. You know, that was pretty awesome. You know,
Taking all the questions like a champ, man. So
yeah.
another huge shout out to him because we're putting them on with some of those questions.
And you couldn't dispute or even think about disputing or anything he had to say. You know, everything made sense, and he was very thorough. And that was the biggest thing, was that he was able to convey it to laymen, people that aren't really experienced in the biological world of, you know, of your medium and all, you know, what's going on down there in the root zone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so that was amazing information. You guys need to really check out the Thursday night show. That's what I meant to say in about 2 seconds, and here we go, 5 minutes later.
Rambling on.
Lights are going out at the home studio.
Yeah, definitely check out last week's show, and thanks for everyone that joined us this week. If you guys, again, please give me some feedback if you guys have any and all feedback on this show. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. I think we might try to cut the show to 2 hours, aim for 2 hours. That's kind of what we're aiming at now. This week, I think we went over by about 20 minutes. So it wasn't too bad, but I think we could slim it down. We also went on a couple of different side rants that maybe we could, but that's okay.
That's to be expected at this point.
Talk show, part two show. We're kind of using the article as a talking point. So we try to cite everyone.
Just utilizing the platform that we're given right now.
Yep, and I post all the links and the synopses in the chat. Not in the chat, in the comment section of the video if you're watching this after the fact. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud, you can find the links on YouTube, on my YouTube at Ponics, if you're actually interested in reading any of these articles for yourself. So thanks a lot for everyone watching, and we'll catch up with you guys next week. Thanks again very much to Brian Grow and Roger for doing this show with us. I know that not all of our normal crew is able to commit to 2 shows. But it's nice to see that a couple of people that are able to do so. So thanks a lot again, and I'll see you guys on Thursday with Black Dog LED. Take care.
Thanks for having me.